And from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding. We, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, laying aside all private interest, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the king, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. This Honorable House now resumes its sitting. I wish to welcome to the sitting of the Honorable House of Representatives this Tuesday, May 27, 2025. All who are present. As always, it is an honor and a privilege to spend time with you in this Honorable House. Today, members, we continue the sectoral debate for the financial year 2025-2026, in addition to the usual business of the House. Let me extend special welcome to Permanent Secretary from Mediject and to all the other representatives from within the ministry who have come to support your minister for today's presentation. To all those who are seated in the gallery, as well as those joining us on the various social media platform, particularly PBCJ live stream, as I'd like to once again say welcome. Clerk, call of the roll.
Mr. Clark. Here. Mr. Bartlett, Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Ms. Grange, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Vaz, Dr. Tufton, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mr. Green, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Matthew Samuda, Mr. Morgan, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Main, Mr. Davis, Mr. Terrelong, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Witter, Dr. Dunn, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown-Burke, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Cousins, Ms. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Ms. Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Ms. Hamilton, Ms. Hannah, Mr. Enriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Ms. Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Ms. Morrison, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Carl Samuda, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Siblis, Mr. Slowly, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, and Mr. Wright. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I neglected to make welcome our former Member of Parliament, none other than Derek Sangster, the Member of Parliament formerly for Southwest St. Elizabeth. Welcome to today's sitting. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, it is our intention to, Madam Speaker, I'll ask for us to, if we could proceed directly to public business, as it is our intention to continue the sectoral debate with contributions from the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining and Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth Southwest, Mr. Floyd Green, the Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and Member of Parliament for St. Anne Northeast, Mr. Matthew Samuda, and the Member of Parliament for Manchester Northwestern, Mr. Michael Phillips. So if it pleases you, Madam, we could have a suspension of the agenda and go directly to public business.
Thank you, House Leader. Members, the question is that we go directly to public business. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Public business, as indicated by House Leader, first up to speak, orderly, will be the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth Southwest. Orderly.
Permission to speak from a seat that's not my own, Madam Speaker.
Permission granted, Minister.
Madam Speaker, it's Galatians 6, verse 9 that reminds us, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap. Madam Speaker, as I rise in this honorable house today, I do so with the utmost gratitude for where we are now, for how far we've come, and for the sacrifices and the commitment that have brought us to this place. Members, we are in a season of harvest, born of years of deliberate effort, strategic decisions, and collective perseverance, with God at the forefront. We stand now at the dawn of a new era, marked by a clear vision, innovative strategies, and renewed energy. I want to thank the Lord for sustaining me and guiding me through every step of this journey. Madam Speaker, I must express my deep appreciation to Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the visionary whose leadership continues to embolden this government to act with clarity, ambition, and resolve. To my cabinet colleagues, fellow parliamentarians, and above all, the people of Southwest St. Elizabeth, I extend my heartfelt thanks. Your trust, your partnership, and your belief are the fuel behind every policy advance and every milestone reached. This new chapter is as much yours as it is ours. Members from my constituency management team are here, including former Member of Parliament and Councillor Sangster and Councillor White, along with students from the Black River High School and the Newell High Schools. And I welcome Principal Roman from Black River High and Principal Ellington from the Newell High School. To my family, my heart and my everything, my wife Carida and our son Nathaniel. To be honest, it is Kerida who keeps me grounded, and Nathaniel who reminds me every day that leadership demands great responsibility, but must be shaped by imagination, compassion, and love. Allow me to also acknowledge my state minister, Minister Franklin Witter, hard-working state minister, and Permanent Secretary Dermot Spence, and the exceptional team at the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, and our agencies. Madam Speaker, they work tirelessly with precision and purpose, and they have helped to drive, shape, and build this new era. Most importantly, I salute our farmers, fishers, and miners who have weathered the storms with determination and grace. You rise early, you work late, plant, harvest, mine in the dust, soil, stone, cast your net, often without applause. Yet it is your hands that shapes this nation's prosperity. This new era belongs to you. Madam Speaker, members of this honorable House, and to all of those tuned in on radio, television, and social media, we have embarked on a journey of renewal across agriculture, fisheries, and mining. This is a journey built on real, tangible action, one that is restoring hope to the sectors after years of setback and transforming our rural communities and by extension, our nation. Madam Speaker, this will be remembered as a time of change, a time of prosperity, a new era of production, productivity, and development in our country. So, Madam Speaker, allow me to outline the new era of agriculture. We've been on a deliberate drive through our new phase of food strategy to create more interest in the sector. And we are seeing that the seeds are bringing forth fruit. According to the latest Jamaica Chamber of Commerce Business and Consumer Index survey, more Jamaicans are seeing agriculture as a real business opportunity. In fact, there's a shifting positive perception, with 66% of those surveyed saying that they're interested in getting involved in agriculture. We're going to build on that momentum. We're going to add more upon the resilience, growth, and recovery, which has become a hallmark of the agricultural sector. But, Madam Speaker, we have got here not by chance, but through strategic action. In fact, this government, in our 2020 manifesto, said that we would provide at least $1 billion per year in direct support to our farmers and fishers. And over the past 4 years, we have provided over $4 billion in direct support. And the impact is clear. In 2022, Madam Speaker, Jamaica recorded its highest level of domestic crop production. We reached 846,000 tons. And in 2023, which, as Minister Samuda will tell you, was the hottest and driest year ever experienced in Jamaica, we still produced 778,000 tons, our second highest ever year of production. So it's no surprise, Madam Speaker, that the Planning Institute of Jamaica has reported that this government has reduced food poverty to its lowest level ever. In 2021, food poverty was 5.8%. Members, we have cut that figure down to 2.8%, meaning 1,000 more Jamaicans are now able to consistently access safe, nutritious food for a healthy and active life. Last year, we started on a good trajectory, 8% higher than the year before. But we all know what happened last year. Our farmers, unfortunately, went through a drought, then Hurricane Beryl, and then by November, Tropical Storm Raphael, one of the most difficult years on record. In fact, we suffered $7.7 billion loss to the agriculture and fisheries sector last year. But thankfully, we have a government who responds and responds quickly. 2 weeks after burial, we were out there with the farmers, accessing $1.4 billion in our disaster recovery intervention, helping over 35,000 farmers. And despite burial, despite Raphael, despite drought, 2024 turned out to be our 4th highest year of production. We really should commend our farmers who are extremely resilient. And Madam Speaker, I want to highlight the poultry sector. You know, in Hurricane Beryl, we lost 300,000 birds. Nonetheless, for the first time in our history, we produced 140,000 tons of poultry, a 3.3% increase. And the good news, members, is that we are on the rebound. And you know, the good thing about this government, we have never been distracted by the noise in the market. We have always watched the sales. Our post-burial and post-Raphael recovery efforts have shown tangible results. And in the first quarter of 2025, domestic crop production set a new quarterly record, reaching 221,000 tons. With most crop groups recording growth, yams by 7%, cereals by 21%, vegetables by 7.3%. You know, Madam Speaker, I was reflecting. After Hurricane Ivan, it took us years to get back to where we were coming from. We had burial in July of last year, and we are here in January hitting new records. This is a government of performance. So, Madam Speaker, we're going to build upon that momentum, using our new face of food strategy to bring in a new era of transformation and resilience. And the first area that we're focusing on is mechanization, which is at the heart of this new era, especially in light of the current challenges faced by the sector, including labor shortages, changing weather patterns. It is essential that we have modern agricultural equipment. That is why, Madam Speaker and members, we'll be investing this year over $60 million towards procuring agricultural drones for spraying, seeding, and surveillance capabilities. Members, just like our man would turn to radar for a tractor, we want people to be turning to radar to get a drone that will come out into their fields and do the spraying work for them. Speaking of tractors, Madam Speaker, we will be distributing 6 high-powered tractors with implements in targeted production zones. Additionally, we're purchasing 6 walk-behind tractors equipped with plows, planters, and harvesters to assist small acreage farmers who are operating on difficult terrain. We're not stopping there. 2 onion potato hybrid harvesters, 4 walk-behind seed planters, 1 rotavator, 6 motorized soil augers for the farmers in South Trelawney so that they can go up into those terrains and prepare the land to plant the best yam in the world. We are embarking on our most intensive mechanization drive ever. This is a new era of agriculture. Members, let me put it into perspective. When we came to government, RADA had only 7 operational tractors. Since 2018, we have purchased 11 tractors and 5 backhoes. We are getting 6 new tractors in 2025. 2 have already arrived in May, and the 4 are coming in July. This will bring our tractor fleet to 22, which is more than triple what we found when we took office. But members, I don't want to believe that we're finished. Under the Hills to Ocean project, we're getting 4 new tractors. In addition, for Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, and St. Andrew. Under the AIC, we have said if you have an agro-park, the agro-park must have a tractor. So this year, we're purchasing 1 tractor for the Plantation Garden River agro-park in St. Thomas, 2 tractors for Parnassus in Clarendon, and I know the Member of Parliament cousins will be celebrating. And 3 tractors for Bridgepen Amity Hall in St. Catherine. Additionally, the National Irrigation Commission will be acquiring 2 backhoes, and we're looking to acquire 1 more amphibious excavator. When I say we're taking a holistic approach, Madam Speaker, we used to go around to our research centers and say that they're overrun with bushes, and said, but why the ministry not doing anything about it? Well, the ministry has purchased a D6 bulldozer that we're going to be using to clean up our research stations, to support land preparation, and to establish trial plots. This is a new era of mechanization. But we're not just doing mechanization. We are also looking to build infrastructure, because we have to ensure that we support higher yields, reduce waste, and get greater market access. But, Madam Speaker, we're doing this not in talk, but in action. A clear demonstration of this commitment. We are presently constructing a 350 square meter cold storage facility in Content, Kirkville, Manchester, at a cost of $124 million. This will help 1,500 farmers. We're not stopping there. 2,635 cubic meters of cold storage will be available for farmers in that northern Manchester, South Trelawney belt, because we're doing that in Coleyville, in Manchester. We're not stopping there. We're spending $165 million to establish 6,103 square foot facility at Ebony Park in Clarendon, including 2,500 square feet of cold and chill room space. Madam Speaker, this cold room facility will be able to hold 600,000 pounds of fruits and vegetables. You might think that we're finished with storage, but we're not. Through the CARICOM New Zealand Boost cold storage project, we're establishing renewable energy powered cold storage in Flagaman in Pedro Plains. And then, Madam Speaker, members, let us go to Essex Valley. Minister Witter, we are establishing one of the largest agricultural storage facilities in the Caribbean. Dedicated cold storage, ambient storage, a puree processing area, and a brine preservation station. This facility is 24,000 square feet and will be able to hold 22 containers of food. But, Madam Speaker, I want us to be clear. This will be able to hold 22 containers worth of food. But I want to make something clear, Madam Speaker, because I know we're in the season. This is not a promise to build. This is not political gimmickry. Unlike those who talk about giving the farmers storage, we are delivering, and the Prime Minister will officially launch this June of this year. The reality, Madam Speaker, as we move on, one of the critical resources that enhances lives and livelihoods in rural communities is water. Allow me. Allow me. Madam Speaker, members, allow me to update you on our flagship irrigation projects. In Essex Valley, we should be fully complete by January 2026. and that will benefit more than 3,000 people. In Essex Valley, we've already laid over 60 kilometers of pipelines. We have already rehabilitated over 30 kilometers of road. One of the major achievements of Essex Valley's members is that we're doing 4 solar photovoltaic farms. It will generate 3.1 megawatts of power, making it the Caribbean's largest agricultural-related solar farm. The pumps are en route and will be installed. And you can see the pumps are en route and will be installed this year. Southern Plains Agricultural Development Project. Southern Plains spans Amity Hall, Bridgepen, and Parnassus. Already, we've constructed 13.2 kilometers of farm roads. We've cleaned 12.9 kilometers of drain. We've laid 24 kilometers of irrigation pipes. We've built one of the largest reservoirs for agriculture. When you're driving down the highway, you just look to your left and you will see it. And when you see the blue buildings, those are valve chambers that will regulate the flow of water. We are retrofitting the Rio Crobe Canal system to efficiently deliver water, and we're going to be driving that through renewable energy. The other major one is what will be done this year in Southwest St. Elizabeth, the Pedro Plains Irrigation Expansion Project. Members, this project has been spoken about since the 1970s. In fact, a man recounted to me a story that Michael Manley himself came into his farm and said if he voted for him, he would take water from the Black River and irrigate the plains of Pedro. That was in the lead up to the 1972 election. Well, members, Michael Manley was not able to get it done. But I can now advise this honorable house that Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness will break ground for the commencement of civil works on this project in July of this year. Cabinet has already approved a $23.6 billion project that will tap into the Black River surface flow and will expand irrigated production and increase productivity for 6,000 farmers across 4,000 hectares of land. We have already mapped 19,000 parcels of land. We have conducted cadastral surveys for 1,000 parcels of land. You know one of the best parts of this project, members? You know the area of St. Elizabeth. For a long time, we haven't had titles for our land. As a part of this project, we will be generating 1,000 titles free of cost for the residents in that belt. And when we break ground, the Prime Minister will hand out 200 that day. So we are way down the wicket. But, Madam Speaker, unlike other governments that only do irrigation in certain places, we are covering a wide scope. In Yalas, we have already dug one well, and we're in the process of identifying the site for the second to irrigate 120 hectares. In Cherry, Dover, in St. Catherine, one of our largest poultry producing areas that have had challenges because of a lack of water. The NIC has already gone in. They have completed a preliminary investigation, done a preliminary design, and we will start preliminary works this year for a new water system for those poultry farmers. In Lucky Hill Pen, in St. Mary, 2 wells have been dug. One has already been developed, while the second one is awaiting testing. We're going to irrigate 91 hectares. In Portland, Lennox, Lower Layton, we're designing a new well for 95 hectares. And in Ebony Park, we are almost complete in Ebony Park, almost complete in laying pipes for additional 120 acres. Together with the Pedro Plains initiative, these projects will expand irrigation to approximately 5,000 hectares. You see, Madam Speaker, between 2012 and 2016, irrigation was confined to a few select areas. But since this government took office in 2016, we have rolled out 12 major projects across 6 parishes from Portland to St. Elizabeth. This is a new era of irrigation. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about farm roads, but I've spoken about it so much that I probably should just quickly go over it. But last year we spent $870 million. Our original allocation, we did 41 farm roads. In our secondary allocation, which was based on emergency, we did an additional 53 farm roads, including 9 in the coffee belt. This year, we have earmarked $900 million for our farm road program. And I'll show you the difference with how we're managing. We're going to be doing more substantial programs. So we are looking to ensure that wherever we do a road, the appropriate drainage is put in and it can stand up for a long time. So we're looking to do 60 roads this year. But a difference as well. We're not just spending the whole 900 million on new roads. We have earmarked 45 million to help us maintain roads that have already been done. You know, Madam Speaker, I must be honest. Every time I hear the other side speak about farm roads, I shake my head. Because what they did in 4 years, we now do in 4 months. This is a new era of rural connectivity. When I go across the length and breadth of Jamaica, I hear persons asking about access to land. I have tasked the SCJ to accelerate the pace of divestment to get lands in the hands of people who want to farm. Last year, 6,338 acres were leased across St. Catherine, Clarendon, St. Thomas, Trelawney, and Westmoreland for cash crop farming, horticulture, aquaculture, livestock rearing, and grass cultivation. We also regularized 34 farmers in Long Pond and 13 farmers on 82 acres in St. Catherine. Madam Speaker, the other thing that people may not know is that we have been bringing land back into agriculture. So we have signed an MOU with the NHT, and we have said to the NHT, lands that you are not utilizing, that are good agricultural land, give us back so we can give farmers. Under that MOU, we have gotten land in Dundee, Trelawney, Parbuckle Wharf in Hanover, and Dundee is 300 acres. Hanover is 119 acres. Alligator Pond, 30 acres. Unity in St. Mary, 698 acres. The other thing that we have done, Madam Speaker, we have gone to the NLA and we have said where we see lands that are government-owned, that are being occupied by farmers, let us manage it. Under that project, we have gotten Harmony Hall in St. Anne, 1,600 acres, and we have already regularized 55 farmers who now have leases to work on that land. We have also gotten some land in Portland, New Pen in St. Mary, 850 acres. We have received about 3,000 acres under these programs. But we're also expanding our agro-parks. You would have seen that we would have opened the Parnassus agro-park in southwest Clarendon, 570 acres. And Madam Speaker, we didn't just open it. People have started to work that land. We have already leased 70 acres to youth. We've leased 100 acres to women. We've allocated, and MP Cousins will appreciate this, we've allocated 159 acres to 23 farmers who previously occupied the land. They now have leases, tenureship, so that they can do what they love. 210 acres have gone to new investors. In fact, Madam Speaker, this is just one of our new agro-parks. In St. Anne, the Jamaica Bauxite Mining Limited have partnered with the Agro-Invest Corporation, and we are establishing a new agro-park in Litford, St. Anne, which will be 670 acres. This agro-park will be served as a model for sustainable agribusiness, employing climate-smart practices, as well as medium and small farmers. Madam Speaker, we are committed to fostering youth involvement in our agro-parks. And as minister, I had passed a policy to say 25% of our leased land must be earmarked for youth engagement. Members, I am here to advise you that we have surpassed that target. Yes. And now 29% of our leased land are to youth and women in our agro-parks. But I'm going to go further, Madam Speaker. You see, this is a government that listens. This is a government that listens, members. Despite surpassing our target, when I am out in the field, I hear some youth saying that the requirements for the agro-parks, for them, are still too high. In fact, when we opened Parnassus, Trishana went up to the Prime Minister and expressed her frustration as a past student of case that she could not fulfill the requirements to get onto the agro-parks. At that time, I said that we would fix it. In this regard, I'm happy to announce our agro-park youth startup program. Under this new initiative, youth lease rates for our new agro-parks will be cut in half for the first 2 years of operation. Additionally, regular persons have to show 70% of their capital investment. For youth under this program, they will only be called upon to show 35% of the capital investment to be able to start. But it gets better. For the first year of operation, we will provide the youth under this program with free land preparation for up to 2 acres. And we will give them free seeds for up to 2 acres on the first year of this. We are embarking on a new era of youth in agriculture. Madam Speaker, one of the things that we have earmarked as a ministry is that we want to ensure that every parish has an agro-park. We've identified some property in St. James. We're looking to identify some property in Hanover. We have set ourselves a target that over the next 5 years, every parish should have an agro-park. Madam Speaker, let me go to praedial larceny. You plant it, you water it, you wait, and then someone else reaps it. This is both discouraging and expensive. Madam Speaker, we have been moving to strengthen our fight against praedial larceny with the introduction of agricultural wardens. I'm pleased to report that 243 candidates have already successfully completed their written exams, physical assessments, background checks, and fingerprint. They are now awaiting medical exams and polygraph and training. We will welcome our first agricultural wardens this year. Madam Speaker, we've been lobbying the JCF for a long time for a specialized response team to deal with praedial larceny. We started this journey with the JCF establishing praedial larceny units. And I want to commend former Commissioner Anderson. But Commissioner Blake has taken a bigger step forward. Madam Speaker and members, I am pleased to report that the JCF now has established an agricultural protection branch. This will be headed by Assistant Commissioner of Police with a clear mission to enforce laws, regulations governing agriculture, to develop strategies to prevent and investigate agriculture-related crimes, and to safeguard the livelihood of our farmers. The branch will be staffed with a senior superintendent, a superintendent in charge of special investigations, an agricultural wards division, and a drones unit, which will provide surveillance support in the fight against praedial larceny. This is a new era in the fight against praedial larceny. Additionally, Cabinet has approved amendments to the Praedial Larceny Prevention Act. And we do expect that these amendments and changes will be tabled, if not today, Madam Speaker, they will be tabled tomorrow. And these will ensure harsher penalties, enhanced traceability, expanded deployment of agricultural wardens. Again, Madam Speaker, this is something that has been promised for decades. And this government is getting it done. But members, I don't want you to think when we say we're just fighting praedial larceny, it's just in talk. I want to share some numbers with you. In 2023, we recorded 78 arrests for praedial larceny. Last year, we recorded 139, an 88% increase. Madam Speaker, there are 201 cases before the court, up from 138 in 2023. Additionally, in 2023, we launched 107 Farm Watch. Last year, we launched 285 Farm Watch groups. And this is the one I like. We have said to the police members, if you catch somebody in the act of praedial larceny, don't make them leave with the motor vehicle. In 2023, we seized 8 motor vehicles. Last year, we seized 28 motor vehicles, a 250% increase. Madam Speaker, the new era of agriculture is based around research and development. This is something that we don't talk about enough. But if we're going to treat with climate change, if we're going to ensure productivity, then we have to pull together all our entities, Banana Board, Coconut Industry Board, Plant Quarantine, the Research and Development Branch, to look at new varieties that are ideal for this change in time. I'm pleased to announce that we've done a lot of work, and this year the Banana Board will be introducing 3 new varieties of banana, all highly productive varieties and highly tolerant to the TR4 disease. We're also introducing the Hass variety of avocado. We have to look at what is happening in world trade. We've already started a pilot on that. We've done some work with our sweet potato varieties, and we're going to be introducing 2 local sweet potato varieties which have been cleaned of virus. Additionally, Madam Speaker and members, we have to treat with disease. This is our new reality. We saw yam rust in 2024, and you all know that yam is our prize possession. In fact, our #1 export is yellow yam, and we want our white yam to also have that same pride of place. As such, what we've done, we've put in place a yam rust disease management program, dispatch RAD, R&D, plant quarantine. We put $32 million, Madam Speaker, to areas in Trelawney, Clarendon, Manchester, and St. Anne, and we're seeing positive returns. This year, we're going to enhance that with an additional sum of $35 million. You know, the other thing that we're doing is infusing technology in what we do. For those of you who are agriculturalists, you know the fruit fly. one of the things that really holds back our agricultural sector. And if you understand how plant quarantine operated, they had a manual process where literally they would put a sticky pad and they would go back and literally count the flies and make a recording. For the first time in the Caribbean, we have spent $40 million and we've put in smart fruit fly traps that use the technology that automatically reports when they pick up an insect. That is the sort of work we're doing in R&D. Additionally, we are going to be establishing some pest-free agricultural areas, especially for sweet potato and pepper. We have earmarked to establish one pest-free area for sweet potato, one area with low pest prevalence for hot pepper, so that we can do a better job of tapping into our foreign markets. We're also working with the International Atomic Energy Agency to bring in the sterile insect technique to treat with our fruit flies once and for all. And we're working with our Veterinary Services Division, and we have a new chief vet, Dr. Ramlal, who is in the house today. And we are going to be launching a new screwworm eradication program for sterile flies to counter the spread of screwworm in the country. The reality, Madam Speaker, we are taking a holistic approach. And I say to members now, there is a lot more in the booklet. We could speak about soil and what we're doing in that regard. I should tell you that we'll be opening next month a new seed and nursery certification unit to ensure that our seeds are certified and of the highest quality. We have a seed bank at Bodles, a seed processing facility, and this year we are implementing a gene bank to ensure that we capture our local varieties. But, Madam Speaker, I want to take us to a little bit about incentives and financing. The Most Honorable Prime Minister made some exciting announcements in his budget presentation. So if you did not hear, it comes to me to repeat.
You were not here.
We are removing general consumption tax on seeds so that it will be cheaper for our farmers to afford their inputs. Additionally, we are expanding the 20% motor vehicle concession. It used to just be for pickups, but farming has changed. Our farmers now want panel vans. They want small refrigerated trucks. We are saying the 20% concession now applies to panel vans and small refrigerated trucks. But we never stop there, because we understand costs. And it used to be that you couldn't bring in a vehicle older than 10 years. Under this new incentive regime, you can bring in a vehicle up to 15 years old under the 20% duty concession. And the one that I love, members, you know, for all these years, fish farmers, those who do aquaculture, they would qualify for the concession. But a marine fisher doctor done in your constituency could not get the 20% concession. This government has said that the 20% duty concession will now be valid for our marine fishers for the first time in our country. Madam Speaker, financing continues to be a major issue. The government of Jamaica has provided $2 billion to the Development Bank of Jamaica to finance micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. A portion of these funds have been specifically earmarked for agriculture. We are now in discussions with the DBJ to finalize an MOU with the Agro-Invest Corporation, which we are looking to reintroduce direct lending to farmers and agri-entrepreneurs. Madam Speaker, what has happened is that even when the DBJ provides the resources, when they go through the approved financial institutions, by the time it reaches to the farmers, the interest is so high that it proves prohibitive. We're establishing a model that we can lend directly to the farmers. Additionally, we've signed an MOU between the DBJ, RADA, and the Jamaica Agricultural Society, where we are preparing our farmers to access these loans. It's a loan-ready training program where we're targeting 450 agricultural stakeholders. Additionally, we have the credit enhancement facility, $30 million for farmers. They can get up to $30 million without traditional collateral. Let me say that again. Under the DBJ, we have a credit enhancement facility where farmers can get up to $30 million without traditional collateral. We also have a poultry loan product where the DBJ has $1 billion to lend to contract farmers or cooperatives around poultry. Recently, our strawberry cluster received $43 million to set up new state-of-the-art greenhouses so that we can regulate the climate and grow strawberries almost in every part of Jamaica. I'm also pleased to announce that the DBJ, in partnership with the IDB and the European Union and NCU, will launch a new initiative. The program will support 25 agricultural stakeholders. Allow me to also announce a special line of credit from the French Developmental Agency, where the DBJ will administer US $5 million to support at least 25% of which will go towards agriculture. Members, we are putting more capital into the hands of our farmers. We're also embarking on an Agri-Invest Forum. The truth is, the new era of agriculture has to attract high-value investment. Our Agri-Invest Forum will be held in September 2025, and it will highlight investment-ready agribusiness opportunities. In fact, members, you are invited. We will formally launch the Agribusiness Forum this evening at 5:30 at Serengeti. Since we're speaking about investment, let me just comment two companies. The Caribbean Broilers Group would have invested $15 billion in agriculture in the nest. The Caribbean's first air-chilled poultry processing plant. And this last one before time. No, let me take this one after time.
House Leader, the members' time for speaking. Members' time for speaking has expired. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I must say that is a very impressive presentation. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the member's time has expired. The member's time has expired, and we are asking for 20 minutes to complete the presentation. Always.
Members.
Sufficient. 25. 20 and I'll take the additional. That's fine.
Members, the question is that the member be allowed 25 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Those against, the ayes have it, Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. Madam Speaker, it is good to start off on this note. We're pleased to welcome another major investment. the Tropical Sugar Company Limited. These investors will be leading the restoration of sugar in South Clarendon. Madam Speaker, they are investing an initial investment of US $50 million. Madam Speaker, they have already leased 12,500 acres of land, with 27 acres dedicated to the construction of a new sugar factory and refinery. This is a significant step to bring the much needed revitalization of the sugar industry. But Madam Speaker, let me put things in perspective. This is not something that is going to happen next year or the year after next. We are breaking ground for this in July of this year. This is a new era for sugar. Madam Speaker, I will try to move quickly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the last sectoral, we spoke about the AMC complex. I'm pleased to announce that Cabinet has approved the divestment of the AMC complex by way of a public-private partnership. This partnership, AgriInvest, intends to co-develop the AMC complex, transforming it into a hub for warehousing, cold storage, and agro-processing. It will remain in agriculture, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is hard to speak about financing and not speak about de-risking. We've worked very hard with the GK group for them to develop the GK Weather Protect Parametric Insurance Scheme. Some farmers are benefiting. In fact, last year, 387 farmers benefited by payouts from the Weather Protect insurance, but we want more farmers to benefit. I'm pleased to announce that this year we will be providing support for 5,000 farmers to sign up for the GKI Weather Protect Insurance Scheme. We're going to target the disaster-prone areas. Another thing, members, and I want you to hear this one. Another thing that we are working on, Member Montague, you and I know a lot of farmers work hard. And then when they decide to stop their farming, they don't have anything to fall back on. Unfortunately, some farmers keep going, even though they are not so strong, because they're afraid if they stop, they don't have anything to fall back on. Members, I'm pleased to announce that the Ministry of Agriculture has started the process of designing a farmer's pension scheme. We will be advocating for $1 billion to seed that fund so that our farmers can put out a little thing. So just like every other profession, they can retire, cock up them foot, and have a pension. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has said that we have to transform our ecosystem, and we're doing that. We are looking at long-term supply contracts, and we've already engaged the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association about it. The JHTA has committed to working with us to provide the ministry with critical data on demand volumes, purchasing patterns, pricing. At the ministry level, we've started clustering our farmers so that they can better serve the supply needs of the hotel sector. The truth is, members, no one will make any significant investment in agriculture if hotels only issue 3-month contracts. We are going to be putting an end to that. We have to ensure that we have a stable, structured, and fertile market. Additionally, this year, we are going to start at the ministry a public recognition, an award for hotels who have at least 90% of their fresh produce being supplied locally. Members, there are a lot of plans, a lot of policies. I won't go through all of them. But just to say, we're working on a 10-year National Agricultural Development Plan. And to be honest, this is something the Prime Minister has directed. When Member Cousins was the opposition spokesperson, when we used to have good contribution, he spoke about the agricultural development plan that is in the works. Additionally, we're doing a national youth policy on agriculture. But the one I want to mention, Madam Speaker and members, we are developing, Madam Speaker, we are developing a national organic agricultural policy. This national organic agricultural policy will serve as the roadmap to unlock Jamaica's potential in this expanding global market. It will provide legal and regulatory framework, institutional framework for organic certification to ensure that it is credible, accessible, and aligned. We are going to enhance market access for certified organic products, both locally and internationally. We want to position Jamaica as the leader in sustainable and organic production. We believe we can maximize our returns on investment. We're also working on a national food reserve strategy, and you will hear more about that one. Madam Speaker, we've always been working with our youth. And to be honest, I want to take this chance to really shout out to our young people who are active on social media promoting their agricultural enterprise. You might not know, but Jamaica has the lowest average age of farmers in the region. Our average age is 48.7% compared to the global average of 60%. 60, global average of 60. More young people are getting involved, but we're going to do more to get even more. We're expanding the school garden program. And I've already said that them we're committing an additional 20 million. But the one I want to announce today, we are launching a new Face of Food scholarship program. You know what happens, Madam Speaker and members? The young people in high school who are good in agricultural science, they don't end up in agriculture. We are changing that. We will be providing full tertiary scholarships for the top male and female student in each parish at the CSEC level. Additionally, we are reserving 4 spots in addition to the top male and female, 4 for people who want to do agricultural education. We will fund your tertiary education. Madam Speaker, we launched, our REAP program has been going well. We're going to expand it. We're looking to double it with the help of the Heart Trust. We launched our REAP National Agri Business Competition last year. Went very well. You will hear more about that. I want to give you 2 more new programs. We know we need more boots on the ground. And as such, we're going to be introducing an agricultural extension service assistant. What we're looking to do are hire young people, especially those coming directly out of high school who are interested in agriculture, put them to work with the extension officer so they get the training, they get the certification, and we get more boots on the ground. In the lead up to this sectoral presentation, I did 2 things. I had a TikTok live, Madam Speaker, where we had about 9,000 viewers, where they suggested, they gave us a number of suggestions. But we also, members, we also went to case. and we held a think tank at Case. And some of the students are here, and I really want to thank them for participating. It was exam time, and they came out. And this is why you must consult your students. Out of that think tank, we have pulled forward a program that was presented by the students. I'm proud to unveil that we're going to be embarking on the Graduate Recruitment Internship and Training Program, a new bold initiative designed to recruit, train, mentor, and place graduates for a minimum of 1 year. What the young people said, they finish Case, they want a job, and they're saying, where's the experience? We are going to be working with the Heart Trust to place these students in agricultural-based businesses for 1 year, pay them so that they get the experience. This program will start at the end of the academic year. Madam Speaker, I can't go through the fruit tree. I can't go through our vertical farming. I will come back to some of these things. But just to say, for our backyard gardening program, which has gone very well. The first year I did the backyard gardening program, we did 2,000, it was oversubscribed. Second year, we did 3,000, it was oversubscribed. This year, we will be doing 5,000 backyard gardening kits, targeting our urban centers. We also appreciate that the cost of input is one of the challenges facing the sector. High cost of inputs, fertilizers, seeds, and chemicals. What we're going to be doing, Madam Speaker and members, we're going to get active in the space. So we're working with the Jamaica Agricultural Society to increase the number of farm stores that they have across the island. We are going to work with the JAS so that we can provide a wide array of inputs at discounted prices. We're going to use that to bring down the cost of inputs. We're starting with 2 next year, but the idea is that we will do 2 each year for the next 5 years. We want every parish to have a JAS farm store that is supported by government, that you can get cheaper costs of inputs. I couldn't leave without saying that our members of parliament are very important.
Yes, we are.
In expanding our reach and to drive greater production and productivity. We will be enlisting the support of our members of parliament to help drive our production and productivity program. MPs, you can look out for your letters. Yes. We have already earmarked $60 million that we will be working with the MPs to identify beneficiaries so that we can drive production. Madam Speaker, let me now turn to our fisheries sector. Despite our challenges with the weather, our fisheries sector grew by 5.2% last year. And I think the NFA and our MPs who run strong programs of identified beneficiaries, I think both of you should be congratulated for the growth. Madam Speaker, we are securing the future of fisheries. We gazetted 2 new sanctuaries last year, Grangepen Fish Sanctuary and the Lucy Fish Sanctuary, bringing our total to 20 protected areas. In fact, Madam Speaker, last week we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iberostar Group and the Grangepen Fishing Association. These are really model public-private partnerships. And I really want to mention the Oracabessa Sanctuary, who has been working with fishers to organize themselves. Madam Speaker, we now safeguard 11,000 hectares of critical marine habitat, and we're moving towards our target of 20,000 hectares. I said last year, members, that we want the sanctuaries to be financially sustainable. I'm pleased to announce that in Galleon in St. Elizabeth, we have trained 20 fishermen and women, and there are now ecotourism tour guides. We provided them with kayaks, a floating jetty, a mobile office, and a patrol vessel. So they now have a Galleon Fish Sanctuary eco-tour. And I'm inviting members to come to Galleon and see the new era of our fish sanctuaries. Madam Speaker, you might not know, members, our fishers can now stay in the comfort of their homes and register for their fishing license. All of this is a computer-based system. Since we have introduced that, members, we have seen a 53% increase in renewals. This system is working. For the first time in our history, we have deployed fish aggregated devices. These are devices that attract pelagic species, so that when you go out to fish, you don't have to guess and spell where the fish are. You go directly to the fish aggregated device. The fishers in St. Mary are doing extremely well. In fact, we have deployed 9 of them across the island. And the fishers are now catching tuna, mahi-mahi, kingfish, swordfish, and some deep snapper. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we are cultivating sea moss. I don't know if you know, but just like how you farm scallion, we are farming sea moss over there in St. Anne. White River, yes, the same thing you call Irish mush. We already have 200 growth plants. Discovery Bay, White River, and Oracabessa. We are also farming oysters. We're farming oysters in Russia. We're also farming oysters down in Hanover. And we have done floating docks and containerized solutions for that. Our tilapia hatchery is about 80% complete. We're in fact working on trying to ensure that we can produce our own fish feed, because fish feed accounts for 50 to 70% of the input costs. So we've started research. We've brought in an extruder and a pulverizer. We're training some fishers in mill operations to see if we can design our own locally made fish feed. Madam Speaker, moving forward for fisheries, there are a couple of things on the horizon as we chart the new era of fisheries. We're doing a new model 200-acre aquaculture park at Mitchelltown that will serve as the Caribbean Aquaculture Center. We're going to be training the rest of the region right here in Jamaica in aquaculture. At Tollgate, we have a 330-acre facility. We're going to rehabilitate that and put that into production and research activities. The NFA will move to establish offices, and this is important. The NFA will move to establish offices in parishes where we do not have any. So St. Anne, Minister Samoud has discussed this with me, and Trelawney, we will be doing a National Fisheries Authority office in your parish. We're also going to be transforming 3 offices into regional centers: Montego Bay, Black River, and Pagy. We're also going to be establishing fuel depots in Port Antonio and Falmouth. We started a program last year where we did 20 boats and engine. We're doing 20 more this year. But the final thing I want to share in relation to fisheries. Madam Speaker, with the strengthened management of our fisheries sector and our significantly expanded oversight of the NFA, our staff complement has increased substantially, and we have more boots on the ground to support enforcement and compliance. It is critical that we uphold the prohibition on fishing of lobster during their reproductive season. And it's equally important that buried lobsters are returned to the sea. However, as more fishers see greater yields, we see that more fishers are unable to sell all of their catch during the open season. That has led to a glut in the market. In response to this, Madam Speaker, I will be introducing to the House the Fisheries Spiny Lobster regulations. These regulations will allow for us to pilot the removal of restrictions on the purchase, sale, consumption, and general position of legally fished spiny lobster during the close season. What does this mean? Madam Speaker, what this means, as you know now, we are in the close season for lobster. So you are not able to legally go out and purchase lobster, even if it was legally fished. We are going to remove that prohibition. Once you would have fished it during the open season, you can sell it all year round. So you will be able to get lobster right around the clock. We are piloting it now. We want to start in June. We will do an assessment after the pilot. If we see that there's an increase in illegal fishing, we're going back to the old regime. But we believe that as a small island that has sustainable manage its fisheries resources, you should be able to consume lobster right around the clock. Let me go to mining. And as I complete mining, it is Minerals Week, Madam Speaker. So I will ask for a little additional time, seeing that it is Minerals Week. And we wouldn't want to cut such an important part. Maybe 7 minutes when I get to the end. The world has faced its fair share of uncertainty over the past few months, and that has been felt across the global mining industry. Thankfully, thus far, the outlook augurs well for Jamaica. We can take advantage of some of the uncertainty, and as such, this new era of mining is about growth and diversification. Madam Speaker, bauxite mining is still very important to us. We saw a 4% increase last year compared to 2023. In fact, on the revenue side, we collected $623 million in royalties, which amounted to a 59% increase. Our companies are still holding strain. Yuaton, they would have constructed a second effluent holding pond, and that has significantly improved their environmental stewardship. We have not had any recent reported environmental breaches, and we want Yuaton to keep it that way. Jamalco, despite the power room fire a few years ago, they are now back on the rise. I met with the executive vice president of Century, and they have a plan to move their alumina production from its current amount to 1.4 million tons over the next 3 years. That would significantly increase our bauxite revenue. In relation to GISCO, Minister Witte and I would have met with the leaders of the GISCO plant 2 months ago. We would have wanted GISCO Alpha to have already be open. But thankfully, we are now seeing positive signs. The company recently employed over 300 local persons to conduct an asset audit exercise. And they have said to us that they are going to start work on the reopening of the plant in December of this year. That will be a major boost to the economy and the economy of St. Elizabeth. Limestone, Madam Speaker, continues to do well, and we continue to see growth. Our Bauxite Community Development Fund, which is very important to a number of members of Parliament, over Phase 7, we did over 100 projects and spent over $200 million across Manchester, Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, St. Catherine, and St. Anne. In fact, 35 major infrastructure projects, including the Alexandria Hospital and the Black River Hospital. We supported poultry farmers. We supported education. We supported roads. In fact, we have been working with our greenhouse clusters, as members should know. One of the big things that the Jamaica Bauxite Institute does is that we take former mined lands, put greenhouse clusters on it so that agriculture can strive. 75% of our greenhouse clusters that were damaged by burial are now back in production. Madam Speaker, today in this house, the bauxite levy will come, and that will finance the next phase of the BCDP. Without saying much, just to say to the members of parliament who look forward to some outturn out of that, we are going to be increasing your allocation. I will speak more on that. But we have earmarked 100 million. We have earmarked 100 million to improve water supply, 100 million for infrastructure development, 70 million for education. We're already working with a water supply project under Operation Pipe Water that I announced last year to bring 440 households, 2,000 residents water, and that is in southern Manchester. Our Jamaica Bauxite Mining Company continues to lead transformation and port development. In fact, our port development and expansion project at the Reynolds Pier is already underway. We have very active exploration going on. In fact, you know, Reynolds Pier really should be commended, because as the Member of Parliament for Northeast St. Anne will attest, when the cruise ship pier suffered its damage, if there was nowhere else to go, it would have been a disaster for Ochoreas. The Reynolds Pier accommodated 122 cruise ships last year, and they really should be congratulated. I'm almost there. Last year, we launched a new scholarship, $7 million. This year, we're putting $10 million towards it to expand. We have 14 persons who received it last year. Very, very good Hoylett Lambert Scholarship. We're going to keep that going. We're working on industrial minerals policy. Two areas that I think I should highlight, Madam Speaker. Over the last 6 years, Geophysics Jamaica Limited, a Jamaica-owned private mineral exploration company, has been engaged in an intensive nationwide greenfield exploration program. The company has undertaken high-quality early-stage exploration, geochemical sampling, geological mapping, industry-leading airborne geophysical surveys targeting elements such as gold and copper. Geophysics has now entered into an agreement with Barrick Gold. Barrick Gold operates the largest gold mine in this hemisphere in the Dominican Republic. This partnership will facilitate more advanced, detailed exploration. We are going to see diversification of our mineral sector. In relation to copper, C3 Minerals, C3 Metals have operated in Jamaica for decades. They entered into an arrangement, Madam Speaker, with Freeport-McMoran, the largest copper mining company in the world. Under the agreement, over the next 5 years, Freeport-McMoran will be spending 3.9 billion Jamaican dollars to further exploration for copper. We are seeing the diversification of our mining sector. Madam Speaker, I know the time is spent, so I will save the export expansion. Safe to say that we have a new trade portal, that we have gotten into some new markets, and that we have launched our export clinics so that we can ensure that we are maximizing our potential. There's one export program that I must mention. We're going to implement this year, Madam Speaker, an export incentive program aimed at supporting large volume exporters, new exporters, small and medium-scale exporting farmers, and agro-processors. Under this initiative, beneficiaries will receive amnesty waivers on costs associated with phytosanitary certificates. We're looking to drive exports. As I close, Madam Speaker, I must say a little bit about the opposition. Madam Speaker and members, I am now convinced that the present opposition has no regard for agriculture and fisheries. In fact, Madam Speaker, the approach that they have taken is quite disrespectful to the hardworking farmers and fishers of Jamaica. This is not the Roger Clark or Michael Manley opposition. This opposition seems foreign. They have not even found it appropriate to have a sitting member of the House shadow agriculture. Madam Speaker, I have searched our history. And I am yet to find a time in Jamaica before this one that no one on the opposition benches is specifically tasked to deal with agriculture. It is a shame. You know what the result is, Madam Speaker? 2 years in a row. I want you to listen to me. 2 years in a row. We have had no questions. We have had no questions during the Standing Finance Committee. And members, to add insult to injury. This year, they asked the spokesperson on energy, a man who represents East Kingston and Port Royal, to speak on behalf of our farmers. What he, members, what he delivered, what he delivered, members, can only be described as a chat GPT dissertation around the common problems in agriculture and fisheries. It was disgraceful. But what is more frightening? Allow me, members. What is more frightening is not what they say. What is more frightening is what they have done. Madam Speaker, they oversaw no significant investment in irrigation in their 22 years. You know, Madam Speaker, I researched and I looked to see what was their significant irrigation investment. You know what I saw? They spent between 1998 and 2015 developing the National Irrigation Plan, and they never implemented one project. Everything for them is in the pipeline. They are the pipeline national party. But that is not the worst. Under their watch, our research infrastructure deteriorated beyond the point of recognition. Bodles, Hounslow, Montpelier, every single one fell into disrepair. Research and development fell to an all-time low. But it doesn't stop there. Members, allow me. I'm short of time. It doesn't stop there. When
a point of order. Madam Speaker, this a point of order. Earlier, the Speaker announced that the members' time will be extended by 25 minutes. It is now 30 minutes. And as the speaker, you cannot conduct this house in this way.
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
That, that, that is, that is not necessary, Minister. Minister, please continue and conclude your presentation.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, let us not forget, it is the opposition, while in power, who decimated the PC Bank, undermined the core principles, couldn't account for 21% of the members' funds, had a high percentage of non-performing loans, were cited for breach of fiduciary duties, conflict of interest, turned the bank from an agricultural-based institution to a friend and company operation. Madam Speaker, they love to talk about imports, but I understand why. They are the barons of import. In the 4 years that they were government between 2012 and 2016, they facilitated the importation of 1,258 containers of onions. Since in our last 4 years, to put it into perspective, we imported 659 containers. They almost double what we do when they were there. The other thing, they sat idly by and watched our fisheries sector grind to a halt without putting in one measure to help build back our fish population. The truth is, their stewardship, Madam Speaker, was disgraceful and shameful. What they now do, they now regurgitate things that we are doing and present them like they are new. They try to repeat the things over and over in the hope that people will buy into their promises. I have always said, Madam Speaker, those who say they can get something done should not stop those who are getting something done. This government is moving forward. This government is getting the job done. As I have shown in this presentation, from equipment to irrigation, to praedial larceny, to storage, to our fisheries incentive program, to mining, we are moving forward in a new era. Just for completeness, Madam Speaker, just for completeness, this government has turned around the PC Bank. Under the Ministry of Industry, it has reduced its bad debts, it has right-sized its operations, and it is now developing a revolving loan scheme for our fishers. Madam Speaker, to be honest, not even Roger Clark would want to see this present PMP on the hands of agriculture. So, Madam Speaker, we stand on the dawn of a new era for agriculture, fisheries, and mining. For decades, we have faced persistent challenges, from low productivity and poor infrastructure to limited market access, vulnerability to climate shocks, but we did not remain idle. Now is the time to go beyond solving problems. We must lead a full transformation. We are building sectors that are climate resilient, market-driven, youth-friendly, and technology-enabled. We are moving toward productive surplus, value addition, export readiness, long-term national development. Members, let us step boldly into this new era of fisheries, mining, and agriculture. The seeds have been planted. The path is clear. We will usher Jamaica into a new era of prosperity because, above all things, we choose Jamaica. God bless you. God bless Jamaica land. We love you.
Minister.
House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What a brilliant presentation. At this time, Madam Speaker, members, at this time, I ask you to invite the Minister with our portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation and Member of Parliament for St. Ann Northeastern, Mr. Matthew Samuda, to make his presentation.
Minister, just giving the gallery a little time to settle down. There are some persons exiting and others coming in. Members, please let's make welcome to his feet again our Minister with our portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, the Member of Parliament from St. Ann Northeastern.
Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon to make my maiden contribution to the sectoral debate. I remain humbled at the opportunity to represent the wonderful people of St. Ann Northeast in this chamber. I thank my councillors, constituency executive, party workers, and most importantly, my more than 45,000 constituents.
Minister, permission to speak from a seat.
Yes, ma'am. Permission to speak from a seat, not usually my own.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And my more than 45,000 constituents for the journey thus far. I also acknowledge the ones who have journeyed from Northeast St. Ann to be with me this afternoon and thank them for coming. I look forward to the coming chapters in the development journey of NESA. Today, I have the responsibility of outlining Jamaica's sustainability agenda and the supporting programs for the current fiscal year while sharing our broader national ambitions and sustainability targets. The work to make Jamaica grow sustainably has been entrusted to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. I am proud to work day in and day out with the Most Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, to work on this critical body of work. I thank Mrs. Arlene Williams, Permanent Secretary, her able CTDs and technical staff for their yeoman efforts and thank them for being here this afternoon as well. I also extend my appreciation to the boards of directors, senior management, and staff of the agencies assigned to me. Additionally, I thank my direct team who sacrificed so much to provide significant support to me personally, including my advisors, executive staff, and CPOs. We are nothing without family, Madam Speaker, and I pause to thank my own family for their love and support, especially my wife and son, and beyond that, I thank God for his mercies and his grace. Madam Speaker, we've all said we want Jamaica to be the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. We have collectively agreed to this lofty goal in bipartisan fashion as our Vision 2030. As a nation, we've agreed to work toward achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Madam Speaker, there has been much made in the public domain related to the amalgamation of the subject areas and agencies under MECJC. But this joined-up approach to government is anchored in the Prime Minister's stated philosophical outlook that sustainable economic growth cannot be achieved through environmental degradation, and further that prosperity cannot be steeped in pollution. This parliament should recall the appointment of Jamaica's first special envoy for sustainability to include the environment, climate change, and the oceans. And I note the support from the member from East Kingston for Ambassador Professor Webber's appointment. And I think, as an aside, member, I noted your comments related to parliamentary oversight. They have my support, and after a particular event, I'm sure we will structure same when we're still sitting here and you're still sitting there. This appointment reflects a commitment of the Andrew Holness-led administration to seamlessly integrate policymaking with academia. This should leave no doubt, Madam Speaker, that this administration will make science-based decisions relating to its management of the environment, climate change, and oceans. Madam Speaker, this administration has prioritized the modernization of the regulatory and legislative framework that governs our environmental management. The policies that this administration has completed to date include the National Biosafety Policy, the Emissions Policy Framework, the Climate Change Policy Framework, the Watersheds Policy, a new Forest Policy, a policy for the environmental sound management of hazardous waste, and an environmental management systems policy for Jamaica. Madam Speaker, we have also completed and tabled in this honorable House the Green Investment Strategy for Jamaica. In the present fiscal year, the following policies will indeed be finalized and tabled in this honorable House, some in a matter of weeks. These include the overarching Protected Areas Policy, the Keys Management Policy, the National Swamp and Freshwater Policy, and yes, Madam Speaker, the Beach Access and Management Policy. Madam Speaker, colleagues should recall that we recently completed the following legislative work and passed the amendment to the NRCA Act and Wildlife Protection Act to allow for increased fines and related custodial sentences, as well as for the first time allowing body corporates to be charged for breaches under both acts. We've also completed the Protected Areas regulations under the NRCA Act. Added to this, Madam Speaker, we are nearing completion and expect to complete the following this fiscal year: the repeal and replacement of the Forest Act, the amendment of the Wildlife Protection Act, overall amendment supporting the ratification of the SPA Protocol. We've also given heavy focus on the subsidiary legislation of the NRCA Act and expect to complete and pass this year the amendment to the wastewater and sludge regulations to be completed by the end of May this year, the amendment to the air quality regulations. We are also expecting to complete the regulations governing transboundary movement of hazardous waste and their disposal, and the long-awaited environmental impact assessment regulations are being reviewed for tabling, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this list is impressive but not exhaustive. It is important that we explain how these legislative and policy reforms will actually bring about a cleaner, greener, and more resilient environment. Madam Speaker, this administration has developed a 20-point roadmap to reach this destination. We have dubbed it JA Sustain, or JA Sustain. This plan is rooted in our deep commitment to improve levels of environmental protection, increasing the capacity for monitoring and enforcing our laws, and significantly increasing our restoration efforts where degradation has taken place in the past. Madam Speaker, this roadmap will focus on the following areas. Firstly, improved air quality. And to achieve the goals and targets of the emissions policy, the government will focus on the following: clean air through reduced emissions from continued energy transition to renewable sources, in line with our NDC commitments seeking a 50% generation capacity from renewable sources. This administration, Madam Speaker, will implement tailpipe testing for all vehicles at the point of licensing. We will implement state call measures at all of the nation's ports. And Madam Speaker, we will continue greening and electrification of the national fleet. The second focus, Madam Speaker, is indeed on water quality. Jamaica has already promulgated new sewage and sludge watershed regulations and policies. This year, the government will expand monitoring and testing capacity, Madam Speaker, by training registered community-based organizations to help with sample collection to significantly expand our monitoring of our watersheds and waterways. The third focus, Madam Speaker, is on land use. Increased protection and restoration efforts have marked our tenure. Madam Speaker, since 2015, Jamaica has led lobby efforts as a part of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature to get global buy-in on the target to protect 30% of land and national EEZs by 2030. The 30 by 30 target was adopted as part of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework at COP15 last year because of nations like Jamaica. Jamaica, by passing 14 new forestry orders last year and the declaration of the Cockpit Country Protected Area and the declaration of the Black River Protected Area, has so far achieved 25% protection of its landmass, Madam Speaker. Jamaica is expected to achieve 30% protection of its terrestrial mass this year, a full 5 years ahead of target. This will be achieved with the expanded protection of mangrove forests in southern Clarendon and with declaration of the Long Mountain Reserve. Madam Speaker, additional new protected areas will include Canoe Valley along the border of Clarendon and Manchester, Montpelier in St. James. Indeed, as we mentioned, the Long Mountain Reserve in St. Andrew. We'll expand the protection of Bengal in St. Anne, and we are expanding the Negril protected area, Madam Speaker. We will also move to ensure that Industry Cove in Hanover is included in the Negril protected area, and this is something that we believe will protect biodiversity for future generations. Madam Speaker, the Forestry Department is going to do something that we believe will be quite novel. We will declare the Constant Spring Golf Club a forest management area. This will preserve for generations this important green space, whether or not it remains in golf or not, but we will ensure it remains a green space for generations to come. Madam Speaker, our efforts at forest restoration have been bolstered with the procurement of a tree relocator, which is now in country. This is critical as we seek to balance the development agenda while maintaining forest cover. So this machine can actually relocate trees with particular root structures when roads are being expanded, when houses are being built, and will allow us to save some of the deforestation managing development. Madam Speaker, colleagues will recall that we launched a 3 million national tree planting initiative in 2019. I'm happy to report that the Forestry Department has achieved this target. These trees have had a survivability rate in excess of 80%. Madam Speaker, it is time for a new target. I have directed the Forestry Department to plant a further 3 million trees over the next 5 years, Madam Speaker. The Forestry Department has also now completed a new land use, land cover, change assessment for the entire island. Now, this will give us much better visibility and management of our forests. But what has been our result thus far? Now, Madam Speaker, what's not known, despite how many times it has been said, is that Jamaica's forest cover has actually increased over the last 9 years. So we have actually improved our forest cover, Madam Speaker, and this is on the back of our protection work and restoration work. And that is evidenced by the RED+, which is a UN standard studies which have been completed in Jamaica, which have assessed us to have increased our forest cover. NEPA has completed the preparation of a national ecosystems restoration plan in alignment with the 2030 agenda for sustainable development aimed at restoring degraded freshwater, marine and terrestrial ecosystems. This initiative promotes enhanced livelihoods, agroforestry, and enhances soil stability and improves climate resilience. The fourth pillar, Madam Speaker, is a reduction of pollution and improved waste management. This critical pillar is absolutely necessary for Jamaica to sustain. I want to pause here and acknowledge the efforts of the Honorable Desmond Mackenzie and his senior team for the overhaul of the NSWMA. We are a cleaner nation today than we were in 2015 because of the efforts of you and your team. The next phase of the effort will include increased waste collection through expansion of the NSWMA fleet, new standards and protocols for toxic waste management, further removal of unrecyclable plastics with an expanded plastics ban, and increased recycling efforts. And I think it's important to understand that in 2015, Jamaica recycled less than 5% of the plastic bottles produced monthly. Today, through the efforts of the recycling partners of Jamaica and government stakeholders, Jamaica now recycles more than 42% of the bottles produced monthly, leading the region in bottle retention. This effort will be bolstered as the government expands its pilots for plastic separation in government facilities and is prepared to support the efforts of recycling partners with budgetary support, as has happened in the past and will be doing so in the next cycle. We will also be taking a serious look this fiscal year and introducing a new pilot to expand e-waste disposal and recycling. The fifth pillar, Madam Speaker, is the assertion of Jamaica's thought leadership on global sustainability issues. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has led global lobby efforts to strengthen action on oceans, environment, and climate change issues over the last 9 years. We will further strengthen our position by ratifying our ascension to international agreements. Our engagement of scientists at the board level of environmental agencies will further accomplish this. The establishment of a National Sustainability Advisory Council, which will bring together academia, civil society, and indeed civil servants. Jamaica has also offered itself as host for international fora, including but not limited to the Our Oceans Conference in 2027 and the UN Oceans Conference in 2029. Our sixth focus, Madam Speaker, is indeed the restoration of critical natural assets. Madam Speaker, this year the government will further advance critical planning with a view to commencing the following activities before the end of this fiscal year. The member from Western Westmoreland will be happy to note we expect to complete the work to re-wet the Negril wetlands this year, Madam Speaker. Coastal revetment and engineering works are being designed and the programs put together for Helsha, Rocky Point, and indeed Negril. We expect to complete the restoration, Member Sibley's, for the Mason River Environmental Management Unit. South Clarendon mangrove replanting in partnership with USODECO, CCAM, and indeed the Forestry Department will be expanded to ensure greater protection for the entire southern Clarendon belt, Madam Speaker. We are bringing environmental protection to life, and we're doing so with the expansion, restoration, and relocation that is planned to start this year for existing sewage plants, Madam Speaker. We expect to expand and improve the capacity this year of the Soapberry treatment plant, doubling its capacity and moving it to tertiary treatment. I'll speak more on that in a little bit. The member from Kingston Western will be happy when we get into the line plans for the improvements in West Kingston, which are 30 years overdue, Madam Speaker. We have also committed and have started the process through the PIAB process to facilitate the relocation, Madam Speaker, you'll be happy to hear this, of not just the Negril sewage plant, but we intend to relocate the Harborview sewage plant for the citizens of Harborview, and we are well advanced in the design process. We have also given our commitment in Eastern St. Andrew for the relocation of Long Mountain sewage lines that should have never been there, as well as we have given the commitment, Member Jackson, for the improvement, restoration, and significant increase in allocations to maintenance for the Portmore sewage ponds. We are moving for the planning process to accelerate for the movement of the Bogue sewage ponds, which should have never been there. That will take some more time, but we're advancing the planning, Madam Speaker. Sewage is amongst the worst environmental issues that we face, and this administration is taking it seriously. Our eighth pillar surrounds the issue of climate and resilience financing. Madam Speaker, recognizing the urgent need to mobilize and effectively manage financial resources for adaptation, Jamaica has embarked on an ambitious journey to develop a comprehensive country platform for climate finance. This platform serves as a coordinated approach to attract, manage, and deploy climate finance from various sources. including multilateral funds, bilateral donors, private sector investments, and innovative financial instruments. Madam Speaker, the government of Jamaica, through the Development Bank of Jamaica, is advancing the establishment of the first Jamaica Blue-Green Facility, a national mechanism designed to mobilize climate finance at significant scale. The international partners include the Green Climate Fund and the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. This is ably supported with the collaboration of national partners to provide concessional loans, grants, and technical assistance to accelerate investments in clean energy, climate resilient infrastructure, and sustainable agriculture, among other climate vulnerable sectors. Madam Speaker, we will not launch a fund without funds in the way that other nations have. This fund is expected to launch this year. Madam Speaker, at the heart of Jamaica's climate finance strategy is this Blue-Green Facility, a pioneering initiative designed to streamline and upscale funding for adaptation and resilience projects. This facility represents a holistic approach to climate finance, integrating blue and green terrestrial ecosystems into a unified funding mechanism. Madam Speaker, to note, we have completed the greening project for the Bank of Jamaica, and it is expected that the Jamaica Stock Exchange will complete their processes, allowing them to list blue and green bonds this calendar year. Madam Speaker, as our ninth pillar, we are continuing to honor our obligations under the Paris Agreement. This year, Madam Speaker, the government will complete its updated nationally determined contributions. It will complete its long-term strategy for emissions reduction, and it will complete its national adaptation plan, filing them with the UNFCCC as per our obligations under the Paris Agreement. Madam Speaker, climate adaptation is critical to Jamaica's future. We are on the front lines of climate change, and as the member from Eastern Kingston would have spoken to, it is indeed a grave crisis. We are experiencing sea level rise already. We're experiencing warming temperatures. We're experiencing deteriorating soil quality and indeed reduced pollination rates. But when one contemplates that in 2022, Jamaica experienced its worst drought. In 2023, we experienced our second worst drought. In 2024, we experienced our fourth worst drought. In 2024, in June, we had our hottest day ever, while then having a Category 5 hurricane hit us and tropical storm Raphael. Madam Speaker, we are on the front lines of a climate crisis and have much to adapt to. Madam Speaker, we expect temperature records to continue to be broken year in, year out, affecting SIDS disproportionately. It is why completion of our national adaptation plan and mobilization of finance is indeed critically important. So that members can understand, you have 28 kilometers of Kingston and St. Andrew that requires coastal revetment work. The cost per kilometer is $10 million for something that unlocks no new economic activity, simply protects older investments before. That gives you an idea of the scale of the climate crisis that we face. Our 11th pillar, Madam Speaker, is indeed harnessing our blue economy, and that was spoken to in detail by Minister Green. We've also aligned around our energy targets as our 12th pillar, and Minister Vaz would have spoken to this at length last week. Our 13th pillar, Madam Speaker, for Jamaica to sustain is indeed increased river and watershed protection. Madam Speaker, the country has rightfully expressed increasing concern over pollution incidents, illegal extraction, and degradation of the nation's rivers and watersheds. I will highlight two major steps being taken to bolster protection of these natural assets. As announced by the Most Honorable Prime Minister, we will establish a river control authority to bring greater oversight and cohesion to management in this area. This will be launched in 2026. Madam Speaker, the Rio Cobre early warning system was launched in April 2024. NEPA was tasked to develop and implement a plan to prohibit the direct discharge of trade effluent into the Rio Cobre. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the agency undertook a program of regulatory enforcement and sensitization, training to protect the ecology of the Rio Cobre watershed. The agency completed the following activities. We have completed the watershed assessment to identify and point to non-point pollution sources. We have reviewed the discharge licenses for every company operating along the Rio Cobre with a view to deal with particular breaches. High-risk facilities located within environs of the revisor have been engaged to identify and implement alternative effluent disposal methodologies. 28 local community members were trained as environmental and river wardens. Madam Speaker, and this is critical, NEPA has already advised all holders of discharge licenses, some who have held for longer than 20 plus years, that consistent with government directives, discharge into the Rio Cobre must cease. They are working with stakeholders to achieve this calendar year. Madam Speaker, we have also prioritized public education and interventions. The government will intensify public education efforts to spur positive attitudes and behaviors towards the environment. We will embark on a campaign to reduce litter, engage citizens to report environmental abuses and breaches, and change particular consumption habits. We will invest $150 million annually in this effort. This, however, cannot be accomplished without the support of civil society. The most impactful anti-litter campaign was conducted previously by the Jamaica Environment Trust with Nodotiop Jamaica. It is time for this to be re-energized, as this effort was a proven winner. We will speak more to this in short order. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we have focused on improvements in our diagnostics capacity. This is our 15th pillar. The Met Services and the WRA hydrological monitoring stations, MOH live health monitoring, are being upgraded to real-time monitors to create a water health dashboard. We are intent on purchasing a supercomputer next fiscal year and supporting the University of the West Indies with the development of a water quality lab to achieve this, Madam Speaker. I also pause to acknowledge Evan Thompson, and I believe he's here. He was elected recently by the World Meteorological Organization unopposed to be chair of Region 4, and for that we acknowledge his tenure. I also acknowledge Peter Clark of the WRA, who is also here with us, who was also elected by the WMO to the same region as a member of the executive body. Madam Speaker, improved marine protection and restoration is a critical focus of ours. Jamaica currently protects approximately 14% of its EEZ. Jamaica is firm in its commitment to achieve the 30% target of protection by 2030. The technical work to achieve this is indeed progressing in earnest. In the next term of our government, we will focus on increased financial support for existing fish sanctuaries, coral reef restoration and replanting, working with the UA Marine Biology Lab, the Alligator Head Foundation, and indeed the Nature Conservancy and others, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the regulatory and legislative reforms will achieve Jamaica's compliance and alignment with international treaties, including the SPA Protocol, which we expect to bring to conclusion in June of this year, Madam Speaker. We have also signed the Biodiversity Beyond the National Jurisdictions, Madam Speaker, signed last year, September, and it is expected to be ratified by Jamaica at the UN Ocean Conference, also in June, Madam Speaker. There's been a long-running discussion related to the Escazú Agreement. The government has decided to allow for a fast tracking of the ratification process, and this will be accomplished with an amendment to the Access to Information Act specific to government's environmental agencies to allow for the complete review of the ATI Act for the rest of government to take place in its normal time frame. Madam Speaker, we will also be significantly increasing our focus on the issue of increased enforcement capacity. It is impatient of debate that the agencies tasked with environmental management are understaffed and unable to provide the nation the level of surveillance required. At a recent meeting with members of civil society and the NGO community, we committed to the creation of a working group to look at this issue with the agencies themselves and the Jamaica Constabulary Force. It should be recalled, Madam Speaker, that Jamaica has in the past had an environmental warden program. However, it failed. We do intend to reinstitute it, but we've asked this working group to look at the reasons why it didn't work in the past so we don't make the same mistakes. We have also reached out to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, was pledged significantly increased focus because we know many environmental crimes are being driven by organized criminals, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we've further improved our focus on town planning. Madam Speaker, sound environmental management requires good planning, and in that vein, I'm proud to advise that 100% of the island is now covered by at least a provisional development order. In fact, smart master plans for the urban areas of Negril, Halfway Tree, and Constant Spring have been drafted and are going through the review and consultative stage. These smart master plans are expected to be finalized this fiscal year. Indeed, the draft smart master plan for Crossroads is nearing completion. It should be noted that the work has begun also on a draft smart Mandeville master plan, Madam Member from Central Manchester. Now, these master plans are incredibly important to trigger economic growth. But I point to the 20th pillar of our focus, which is indeed beach access. In this season of newfound causes and commitments and wild promises, this issue is again front and center. The government, through the NRC, with broad-based consultation, including the private sector, civil society, and public commentary, has completed the beach access policy, and it is presently before the Cabinet for final review. In that review process, we continue to monitor particular matters before the courts. This policy will balance the rights and expectations of citizens with that of local and foreign investors while adhering to the laws of Jamaica. But, Madam Speaker, beach access doesn't require policy solely. It requires investment and coordinated developments. It is for this reason, Madam Speaker, the government, through the efforts of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, the UDC, and the Fisheries Division, continue their efforts to expand and improve beach access. Madam Speaker, it is for this reason the UDC is proud of Harmony Beach Park in Montego Bay. It is for this reason we are proud to announce the development of the Negril Public Beach Park this year, which will provide access to citizens, an improved craft market, and an entertainment zone, and that will commence this year, Madam Speaker, and I bring your attention to the graphics and the imagery associated with the same on the screens. Madam Speaker, this is beach access. I also bring to your attention that in this fiscal year, the Tourism Enhancement Fund will commence the development of 3 upgraded beach parks, namely the Padgett Beach in St. Mary, the Success Beach on the eastern side of St. James, and for those in the gallery, the Priory Bathing Beach, also known as Fantasy Beach. I will not encroach into Minister Bartlett's presentation. However, Madam Speaker, let there be no doubt that this administration is building quality beach parks for Jamaicans to access freely. However, Madam Speaker, there is an additional point to be made. This government has, through its regulatory process, sought to preserve access points to beach, long access by citizens. I will further highlight below a pathway which was recently installed at a hotel development, a brand new hotel development, I believe the last one to be completed in Jamaica, in Trelawney. That was a term of their approval, meaning hotels that are now getting approval are required to put in place pathways providing access to citizens, access to beaches that they previously had access to. So they're able to access the foreshore, and we ensure that they have appropriate parking and other such systems. This is indeed for those who wish to go and visit the beach. It is found in proximity of Rio and Royalton in Trelawney. And with other developments that are coming, you will see similar pathways providing access. You see, beach access, though complete on paper, requires investment, and this administration has chosen beach access for Jamaicans and continues to choose Jamaica. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, changing weather patterns caused by climate change require Jamaica to increase its capacity to forecast weather systems and track our actual experience. I'm happy to report, Madam Speaker, that the final work to bring Jamaica's radar system online for the Meteorological Service of Jamaica is ongoing and expected to be complete this very week, ensuring that the Met Service has the necessary tools for the upcoming hurricane season and is not left solely dependent on external sources. In this fiscal year, the government will increase the efforts to modernize the Met Service, digitizing its operations to be able to provide real-time measurements and reports. It is well known, Madam Speaker, that Jamaica has a bimodal weather pattern and cyclically we are experiencing drier conditions. We expect that to break later this month. However, I thought it important because of the very impact on so many of our industries, including agriculture, just to share briefly what the current weather situation looks like. That was the April 2025 rainfall amounts, so you understand where there are indeed challenges. This is your rainfall outlook probabilities for the next 3 months. We see that we're not necessarily expecting the drought to break. Beyond that, however, we expect to have significantly wetter conditions in August, September, and October of this year, Madam Speaker. But we expect to have significantly improved our equipment capacity to monitor and predict these systems because of the investments we're making into the Meteorological Service. And the reason we had to touch on weather is because it's the single most important factor for water, something I know that affects every member of parliament in this house and every hopeful member of parliament who wants to get into this house. Madam Speaker, the vision of Andrew Michael Holness is simply to ensure all Jamaicans have access to potable water and sanitation by 2030. This government, through the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, has managed the water sector with that goal in mind. Approximately 90% of Jamaicans are served either by the National Water Commission, municipal systems, or private suppliers, with the NWC serving approximately 79% of that cohort, which is a 4% increase from 5 years ago. So we are growing the utility footprint of the Water Commission. Madam Speaker, this administration's vision for the water sector focuses on sustainability, resilience, and equitable access. We have eight key pillars that define this vision: universal access to clean water, sustainable water management, energy usage in the water sector, wastewater recycling and treatment, public-private partnerships, education and awareness, equitable resource distribution, and resilience to climate change. Madam Speaker, this administration, your government, has invested unprecedented sums through the capital budget of the National Water Commission and the Consolidated Fund in bringing this vision to life. Significant bureaucratic bandwidth and regulatory focus has been directed towards these pillars. We have made major gains, though we have major work to do. 150,000 Jamaicans, Madam Speaker, have enjoyed improved water supply through our investments this term of government, Madam Speaker. However, we are, and have admitted we are targeting universal access, which requires major infrastructure upgrades and faster deployment of project investment. It is for this reason that this administration will invest in your water supply at a rate not seen since the 1980s and not seen previously to that since the 1940s. Madam Speaker, this investment is structured as follows. The National Water Commission is actively investing 10.1 billion Jamaican dollars with support from the Consolidated Fund this year, Madam Speaker. The NWC will, from revenue, conclude $1.18 billion of works already underway through its revenue, Madam Speaker. Further, the Rural Water Supply Limited is currently investing $597 million in small water systems. And further, the National Works Agency is guiding the investment of some $5 billion through the Spark program to repair old leaking pipes. But we go further, Madam Speaker. JSIF is also currently investing $1.18 billion Jamaican dollars into 3 water projects in St. James, and these are already underway. You heard my colleague, minister and friend, speak of the significant investments to come under the National Irrigation Commission, the single largest investment in our farmers in certainly our lifetimes. Minister agreed. Madam Speaker, what this all amalgamates to is an investment of over 22 billion Jamaican dollars this fiscal year into Jamaica's water sector, while further unlocking 14.2 billion Jamaican dollars through PPPs, not saddling Jamaicans with the debt burden or using their tax revenue in that way. Madam, fixed dollar Jamaican rates, which had Jamaica followed that, we wouldn't be here now. Madam Speaker, many of these projects require more than a single budget year for completion of the construction phases. You know, it's really ironic we're talking about high interest rates. It's incredibly ironic. But Madam Speaker, many of these projects will require more than a single budget year for completion of the construction phases. However, the fiscal space to invest at this staggering rate didn't come about by accident. It is through the administration's careful management of the economy. The bureaucratic focus on guiding these investments through the investment appraisal process didn't happen by accident. And these budgetary allocations certainly did not happen by accident. Madam Speaker, I've outlined the vision and strategic framework. I've outlined the budget allocations to be made to achieve this vision. I will now highlight in greater detail the activities supporting each pillar. Universal access to water won't simply happen by accident. It requires significant infrastructure investment. This map shows the planned investments. This map actually shows the completed water systems last fiscal year. This map, Madam Speaker, shows where we're investing that 10.1 billion Jamaican dollars to improve water supply for Jamaicans further. Madam Speaker, the distribution of capital projects is island-wide, and many of these projects are spread across multiple fiscal years because of scale. A lot is often made of announcements. However, we have been diligently working on ensuring the delivery of capital works. Last year, several projects were announced, and I believe it's important that the country is updated on their status. The following projects were completed last fiscal year. Firstly, in Orangefield, to Northwest St. Catherine, completed improving water supply for 880 people, $10 million. St. Catherine Northeast, Bermadi, $14 million. In St. Catherine Southwest, $5 million improving Kimble Pen system. St. Catherine Southwest, Family Avenue, improving Bodles. Clarendon Southwest, the Springfield Racecourse system, with that line being improved for 384 Jamaicans. In St. Elizabeth Northeast, the Run It system was completed at a cost of $10 million, 260 persons benefiting there. Number Road also in St. Elizabeth Northeast, Content Road in St. Elizabeth Northeast, Ginger Peace in St. Elizabeth Northeast, St. James Southern, Eldersley, Cambridge have also benefited from investment. And my friend from South St. Elizabeth, Southwest St. Elizabeth, you know the work that we have done in Slipe, and I know my friend from Southeast St. Elizabeth can attest to the work done in Kingdom Hall. South St. Elizabeth Southwestern can also speak to a system commissioned, an investment, a very heavy investment in middle quarters, supporting New Holland as well. The member from Trelawney Northern can attest to the investment made in Braco. The member from St. Mary Western can speak to the investment in Mason Hall in phase 1 of that system. The member from St. Ann Northwest can speak to the Brownstown Retreat investment, which is underway. The member from St. Andrew East Rural can speak to Constitution Hill, I would imagine so, Madam Speaker. And I can go on and on, but we will circulate. We can't take the time. Can't take the time. But the one that I am particularly happy to report on, because we have gone through a lot of trauma with it in the area of Brownstown. And for those here from St. Ann, they'll understand that we had the collapse of the Minard well 2 years ago. This well is amongst the largest and deepest wells in Jamaica. It supplies 30,000 Jamaicans with water, and 2 years ago, it simply collapsed right before the local government election. Why? Bad luck worse than over. But I am happy to report that work on that system at Minard Well will be complete this week, and we expect to commission in the next 14 days, Madam Speaker. I think Minister Green has taken good care of it. But you know, we have a whole suite of investments, whether it is in St. Catherine Southern or St. James West Central in Fairfield, whether it is Fort Charles in Southwest St. Elizabeth. But we also have small systems, Madam Speaker. You see, a lot is made when you announce a $100 million project, but sometimes it is the small rural water supply systems that give you the greatest joy when people have been without water for decades. Projects completed include rainwater harvesting systems in schools like Buff Bay High, Mount Pleasant Primary School, Rock Hall Basic School, Marymount High School, and the Lapland water supply also was complete. The John Reed catchment tank improved and completed. But, Madam Speaker, we are in the season, as the Prime Minister have called, of promises. Except our promises come with substance because the budget for these promises are printed in the big yellow book. So, Madam Speaker, we are already underway with work. You know, it's funny, Madam Speaker, because just this morning, we both commissioned a system, a solar system, benefiting West Rural and indeed Northwestern St. Andrew, and broke ground on a piping system that benefits both Western St. Andrew and, of course, West Rural and Northwestern St. Andrew. So these promises are coming with pipes, they're coming with construction, they're coming with project completion, they're coming with improved collection at the Water Commission because there are more customers, because you have connected more persons without increasing the tariff rate. We are collecting over $4 million monthly without raising the tariff rate because we have connected more Jamaicans. So it is not an illusion. It is not song and dance. But Madam Speaker, we are already underway and will complete this fiscal year work on the Jordan Run Well line from Highgate, Islington. The member from North Central Clarendon will know that we are already underway on the pipe works in Rock River that will facilitate the development of the reservoir that we intend to build in that area this year. We are already on supply and installation of 5 glass bolt steel bolted tanks in Hope, Mount Airy, Louisville, Happy Grove, and Whitehall. Works are already underway to upgrade Springfield to
Ask him. House Leader, the member's time for speaking has expired.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask that the member be given an additional 20 minutes, 25 minutes to complete his presentation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Not yet, member. Members, the question is that the member be allowed 25 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are also midway in installation of pipelines, storage tanks, and M&E equipment in Rosemount, Camelot, Discovery Bay. And this is a $120 million investment. The member from Manchester Central can also attest that we are midway in $770 million of further investment in the Greater Mandeville system. And for anyone who's driven to St. Elizabeth in any time recently, they will see the large pipes going to gutters and the pipes that are going beyond there. Madam Speaker, for any of you who have traveled to Montego Bay via the northern route, the North Coast Highway, you will have noticed that we are midway in installation of a transmission main that has cost the government some $100 million to significantly improve water delivery from St. Anne's Bay all the way to Landovery, Madam Speaker. This is necessary to strengthen the development and to supply the increasing population along both northeast and northwest St. Anne. We are also actively
increasing our sewer capacity in areas previously not sewered. The member from Eastern St. Andrew and Southeast St. Andrew can attest to this, that we are investing in excess of $1 billion in both potable water supply and new sewer lines in their constituencies. But Madam Speaker, this is not the end. On the rural water side, the member who has a community by the name of Riversdale can attest that we have commenced investment and construction is underway for $315 million of a new water system for a community that has waited close to 50 years for water distribution improvement. So whether it is phase 2 of Mason Hall in St. Mary or Cascade, or whether it is the Freehill system, or it is indeed the upgrades planned for Rocky Point, or whether it is the new lines coming off of the Itaboral system in Southeast St. Mary, or indeed the Gale line. We're coming to yours shortly, Minister. We're coming to yours shortly, Minister. But there are new capital projects. There are new projects, Madam Speaker, which have not yet started construction. And for those who have a problem seeing groundbreaking ceremonies, I caution you the next few weeks will be heavy, because we have completed procurement, contract award, and mobilization on the following projects. Black River Town Center to Arlington Pipeline parity, $238 million. The Dornoch to Barron Hill Reservoir replacement, 200,000 gallons, $20 million. The Dornoch Water Treatment Plant to Barron Hill Reservoir Transmission Main replacement at a cost of $205 million. We'll be doing work to restore and to improve, because there is some damage at the Hermitage Dam, so we'll be doing $151 million of work there. Madam Speaker, we are under contract. Yes. Madam Speaker, we have under contract the Jericho Wells for Yuatan and to York Street Pipeline for $98 million. For South Manchester, the member will be happy to know that Grovetown to Cross Keys mains replacement is under contract at a cost of $210 million. He will break ground, however. Christiana Spalding is happy to hear that we are under contract for $53 million, Madam Speaker. The Constant Spring Water Treatment Plant and Ramshorn Tunnel raw water intake is being rehabilitated also to make sure that that plant is running at scale. Juno Crescent, I believe the member from Southeast Clarendon can speak to the fact that this is a critical system. Central. No problem. We're helping everybody, so sometimes it happens. We have completed the Rhine Park water supply at a cost of $150 million. We have started work in Santa Cruz on the bypass mains replacement at a cost of $50 million. We have completed the procurement and have mobilized for Whitehall to Newmarket and started the work there. The KSA transmission mains for Ferry to Rock Pond announced broke ground this morning, benefiting 3 constituencies, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, we have an impressive program of work. There is also expectation that the transmission mains for the Helsha Main Road will be upgraded with the road widening exercise, member, and I'm sure you're fully appraised of that one. We have over $7.3 billion of works procured under contract, awaiting start dates. Some start this week, some start next week. But the team at the Water Policy Unit at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation are pushing out submissions every week going to Cabinet for approval, because these projects have been being built and dealt with over a long period of time. But, Madam Speaker, there is one that I think is particularly important. And this one is one that was announced by the Prime Minister last year. And it is the Western Water Supply and Resilience Improvement Program. Madam Speaker, the totality of this project will cost $350 million US. However, the terrible drought which affected Western Jamaica disproportionately in February to May of last year prompted the bringing forward of phase 1 of the project, which included major capital works to replace the transmission main from Martha Brae to the terminal reservoir in the center of Montego Bay, and the transmission main from Lucy all the way to Negril. That phase will cost $169 million or 27 billion Jamaican dollars. Madam Speaker, this phase of the project involves the upgrading of 28 kilometers from St. James to Trelawney and 37.5 kilometers of pipeline from Lucy to Negril. This project will benefit over 250,000 business and residential customers, while facilitating major developments in the tourism and residential, commercial, and development sectors. It is for this reason, Madam Speaker, that the Cabinet has approved the designation of the Western Parish's Water Supply and Resilience Program as a national development project. The construction phase of this project, Madam Speaker, will commence within 3 weeks. Now, to note, because of the significant scale of this investment, the construction phase will last 3 years, and there will be some traffic disruption during this work. We plead for patience, but this is a generational investment that will solve a lot of the issues that the member from West Central, from Northwestern, from East Central St. James call about daily every time the line collapses. It will significantly support the members from Eastern and Western Hanover, and of course the member from Western Westmoreland, who was on the front lines of the crisis last year, will appreciate this investment. This is not something to come. It is something that we expect to break ground on in the middle of June. And this is a major, major investment, Madam Speaker. And the pipes are in Jamaica. So we are underway with this work. Madam Speaker, we have spoken about rural water expansion for the better part of 25 years. Both administrations have pursued it through particular routes, but both of us have discussed it on back of a CDB-funded project that just simply hasn't come together over the last 25 years, despite it being pursued. I'm happy to report, Madam Speaker, that for those who would have read the Sunday dailies, Sunday newspapers rather, this week, they would have seen ads in the paper for hiring of staff for the project management unit. And I'm happy to report, Madam Speaker, that we will be going to procurement within 2 weeks. So a project tied up for 25 years will start once procurement is complete. But these projects won't happen in a year, and I don't want anyone to leave thinking that they will happen in a year. These are next year's groundbreakings, member from West Rural St. Andrew. And they will include the Agwater Vale to Jordan Run in southeast and central St. Mary. It will include phase 3 and 4 of Mason Hall and the expanded phase 5 member from Western St. Mary. It will include Albert Town to Ulster Spring in southern Trelawney. It will finally include the long promised system for Union and Balaclava in northeast St. Elizabeth. It will also include the Port Morant Airy Castle in eastern St. Thomas. And the member from southwest St. Anne will be happy that finally the 8,181 customers assessed to need this system will also benefit from an $800 million injection in that area. Madam Speaker, that map is indeed, I believe, coming up. And these are all the systems that we've worked through, which I'm happy to circulate to members. But this shows, and if you think of the population centers that have grown around these communities, you know why we should have done it 25 years ago. But we are finally at that point. And I'm happy to have put some work into that particular space. Madam Speaker, increased service reliability through improvements in storage capacity and upgrading infrastructure at key catchment areas is a critical focus. During the upcoming fiscal year, the NWC will undertake a comprehensive review of options for expanding 2 major storage infrastructure that serve the KMA, including the Mona Reservoir and the Hermitage Dam. As it relates to the Hermitage Dam, we'll be examining the possibility of increasing the storage capacity of the dam by either raising the crest level of the dam or constructing an entirely new additional reservoir to capitalize on the overflows from the existing dam, which often occurs. Colleagues will recall that last year the NWC undertook a full engineering assessment of the Hermitage Dam at a cost of $150 million and did find some weaknesses in the structure. Madam Speaker, the work associated with the development of the Rock River Dam in north central Clarendon is also underway. We have commenced land acquisition, site preparatory works, and pipe works are already underway at a cost of $150 million. We've already mentioned the Greater Mandeville water system, but this project is being undertaken at $2.7 billion and expects to bring NRW in the parish of Manchester by the end of the calendar year below 50%, coming from a high of 72%. The major project that the country requires is, however, a national non-revenue water project. This is a project that will span a decade. This is not a single administration project. This is indeed a major one. We have completed the first phase of the procurement, and through pre-qualification, we have identified 4 international engineering firms that are going through their procurement process with DBJ. This is a PPP contract. This will see the investment and commitment of over $300 million for distribution mains, as we target NRW nationally of 30%. Right now, we're between 68 and 70%. I won't touch immigration issues today, but I will touch on public-private partnerships. Madam Speaker, this government has actively encouraged collaboration between government and private enterprises and communities to improve water infrastructure, maintenance, and innovation in water management technologies. This is to ensure that we are able to execute PPPs in the water sector. We have embarked on a strategic partnership with the IFC, the subsidiary of the World Bank, to achieve this. Madam Speaker, a major project that has been discussed for a number of years has finally entered the construction phase. We're happy to report that this nationally important project of the Rio Cobre water treatment plant is indeed underway and is expected to be complete in 20 months. Now, this will produce some 15 million gallons daily of water that will supply Spanish Town, Portmore, and Kingston and St. Andrew. And yes, member, we have committed to supplying the communities that surround the water treatment plant. And you'll recall that discussion last week. Now, this is a first of its kind PPP. It is denominated in Jamaican dollars at fixed rates and has the ability for refinancing every 3 years. But more importantly, there is a component of the project that as an asset is depreciating, it must be replaced by the PPP operator, meaning that at the end of the contract, a new water treatment plant will be handed to the people of Jamaica, having served its time, but brand new plant will be handed over to us, a first of its kind in sustainable water management. Madam Speaker, we have also focused on the planning guidelines. Certainly, we have completed our rainwater harvesting guidelines. We've completed our water resources master plan, and we've designated 15 new ecologically sensitive areas, and those were tabled in this House last year. But we've done further work with the Water Resource Authority, which is not sexy work, but needs to be understood because it affects every part of our water supply. We have completed studies on saline intrusion assessment in the Rio Cobre and Rio Minho limestone aquifers. We have completed the Rio Cobre moratorium assessment, and we continue our monitoring of the Essex Valley agricultural project to make sure there's not over extraction. We've also given some focus, and this year we will be completing the Yalas alluvium aquifer modeling, which has shown signs of over extraction, which must be studied. The other major issue that we face in water is one that every MP should understand, and it's energy use in water. There's nothing worse than your constituent calling you and saying, we're not in a drought, rain is falling, but I do have water at my home, and you hear the word single phase. For that reason, the government has committed to building significant resilience into its water system. It is looking firstly at the systems that supply hospitals and infirmaries. We will be putting backup generators on all of those systems first, so that should we be hit by another storm, those systems are not compromised. Now, we are the largest customer of JPS, so no one is suggesting here that NWC is going to create instability in the grid and come off of the system. But there is an absolute need for resilience as well as for cost containment for the government to pursue particular energy projects. The first is a 45 megawatt floating photovoltaic system on the Mona Reservoir. This $62 million PPP has gotten its power generation license, I believe 10 days ago from the OUR, and is completing its wheeling license and pricing with the JPS. We expect it to break ground on construction next month also. But we also have a suite of 11 projects which are projected to save the NWC $593 million annually. Now, these projects include the just concluded Forest Hills 350 kilowatt solar facility. They include the Leaders Avenue similar 350 kilowatt facility, the Fraser's Content solar facility, the Mona floating solar. We also have a lease in place with Wigton where we'll be putting in 12,000 kilowatt solar facilities at particular spaces. We're also working with JPS on a meter mapping and georeferencing all NWC power use sites. This is 82%. We also have an operation which we call Operation Kilowatt, which is looking at energy efficiency right throughout the NWC system to make sure we're not using unnecessary current. And this is within the NDC partnership and being paid for by our multilateral partners. We are also, Madam Speaker, expecting to conclude the procurement in the coming weeks on the Greater Mandeville Water LNG project. Now, everyone knows that the water is incredibly expensive to pump in Manchester because it is all uphill. That energy bill can sometimes top $55 million a month. We are looking at a structure that will facilitate an LNG plant to significantly reduce this cost. And that is already gone to market, and we expect to have an announcement in 2 weeks, member. But we're not just looking at the power generation, we're looking at the power usage. We have already procured 42 new pumps to increase reliability and reduce energy usage. These have been procured at a cost of $900 million and are expected to all be installed this calendar year. The NWC is also, as I said, midway in procurement of 12 major generators, and these are the ones that supply your major hospitals and infirmaries. This is being done at a cost of $500 million. The Rural Water Supply Limited has also focused on solar supply systems, and they have done so in Mile Gully, Western St. Mary, Lapland, Southern St. James, Mother Flora in Northeast Manchester. Madam Speaker, 3 other systems will be completed within this quarter, expected to be done next month, which include Free Hill in Northwest St. Anne, Bunkers Hill in Northern Clarendon, and New Eden in West Portland. The NIC, and Mr. Green would have spoken to it, has also installed 3 major irrigation systems using solar energy. The issue of single phase is one that we can't leave as is. It is for that reason myself and Minister Vaz have convened a working group between the senior management of the JPS and the senior management of the NWC to look at the maintenance of lines and to make sure that we're planning together so that the issue can be brought under control. For far too long, it has plagued the operations. It affects both the revenue of the NWC and affects service delivery for Jamaicans, and we are working to bring it to a close. Madam Speaker, the fifth pillar is the wastewater recycling and treatment. Madam Speaker, the KPMG has completed the business case and presented it to the Cabinet on the expansion and divestment of Soapberry. The government intends to go to market this year for a supplier and partner who will expand the capacity of Soapberry by doubling its capacity while moving it to tertiary treatment. The land is already reserved and was reserved at the time of its acquisition, and that will expect $114 million US. But Madam Speaker, all of this is for naught. All of this is for naught if our citizens in downtown Kingston have to navigate sewage leaks on a daily basis, member. And it is for that reason, as you know, the Prime Minister has instructed, we're already doing, I believe, $200 million of work on Spanish Town Road, but we will commence next month an additional $480 million of line replacements going through Western Kingston, and will continue to do so until this issue is brought under condition. They have suffered for far too long, but we have started, Minister. We have started. It is incredibly important as we improve our sewage systems. Madam Speaker, colleagues and those at home will have an opportunity to read the presentation. So I'm going to focus on one last program in closing, and that is the NWC amnesty, Madam Speaker. In November 2024, the Prime Minister announced that the NWC would provide an amnesty to customers cut off from the utility for more than 6 months. This amnesty has benefited pensioners, path recipients, and members of the disabled community, with sometimes up to 100% reprieve, in other cases 50%. Madam Speaker, as at May 16th, over 34,000 customers have engaged the process and are seeking to benefit from the amnesty. Madam Speaker, total reconnections thus far, 7,901 customers have benefited, had their debts written off, and been reconnected to the Commission. This has also yielded some $547 million in uncollectible revenue. But the more important number, Madam Speaker, is that this administration, through this initiative, has removed $1.4 billion of debt from the pensioners, path recipients, and the disabled community who are suffering under this mountain of debt. And for that, we are happy, Madam Speaker. They needed their water. We have returned dignity to these households. Madam Speaker, this initiative, for those who have engaged with the Water Commission, they don't need to worry about the date. Once their name is in the system before the end of the month, we will be working through the process, and we intend to reconnect all 34,000 customers, Madam Speaker. We also, very shortly, for the number of concerns that have been raised with me by colleague members of Parliament, we are taking a very serious look at the small and micro business sector, who also have asked for a similar program. We are going to conclude this for the pensioners and path beneficiaries first, and then we will make an announcement very soon for our small and micro business sector. Madam Speaker, we have chosen to invest in sustainability. We have chosen to strengthen our environmental, regulatory, and legislative framework. We have chosen to invest behind that and restore areas like the Negril wetlands, and Helsha coastal engineering is being done. We have chosen to invest at an unprecedented rate in the water supply of Jamaicans, in urban Jamaica, in rural Jamaica, in every part of Jamaica. This government has chosen to make Vision 2030 a reality. The people of Jamaica have chosen us, and we have chosen Jamaica. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, another excellent presentation by a young, upcoming member of Parliament. We should applaud him one more time. And so, Madam Speaker, I now ask that you call on the Member of Parliament for Manchester Northwest, Mr. Michael Phillips, to make his presentation.
Make welcome to his feet the Member of Parliament for Manchester Northwestern.
I will only speak of what is the reality. Madam,
Members, the member from Manchester Northwest is on his feet and would like to commence his presentation.
thank you, Madam Speaker, for your protection. Madam Speaker, today will likely be my final presentation on this side of the House during a sectoral debate. I give thanks to the Almighty for his continued strength and guidance. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Hebrews 6, verse 10. Madam Speaker, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the people of Northwest Manchester who have trusted me and expressed their desire for me to continue the good work I began 3 terms ago. Madam Speaker, I want to recognize the students from the Coley Mountain Primary School who are here in the gallery. To my 4 councillors, Rhoda, 4 councillors. Rohan Kennedy, Deputy Mayor, Mile Gully Division. Devon Wilson from the Johns Hall Division. Andrew Smith, New Green Division. And Ryan Peart from the Spur Tree Division. My executive team and staff. My driver, and to the many visitors who are here in the gallery from Northwest Manchester. To my Northwest Manchester family, I love you. Love you. To my family, to my wife Rhonda, daughters Isabel and Gabriella, my brother Luke, who is here in the gallery, my other brother Jacob saw it fit to serve at the CCJ, who came to visit me yesterday, who was in the island. And to my other siblings, I express profound gratitude for your unwavering support. I could not have taken this journey without you. Some of my colleagues and I have developed lifelong friendships on both sides. And some of us may never agree. We yet serve the people we represent. It has been a lifelong change in experience for many of us. Let us all put Jamaica first. Now to the substantive topics. A transport sector in crisis. Madam Speaker, nowhere else in the government is a lack of policy and inept operational plans more evident than in the public transport sector. The almost 10 years of JLP administration have seen constant decline from crisis to crisis. In the end, commuters and transport operators are worse off. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, is in the worst financial and operational state. Madam Speaker, the state of our transportation sector has been a topic of ongoing concern, especially this deteriorating condition of the JUTC. This government has cycled through 4 different ministers of transport, yet the sector remains stagnant. Today, the JUTC is in the worst state of history, losing almost $100 billion under this administration. If Jamaica had properly invested those taxpayers' dollars, the country would have had a public transport system unmatched anywhere else in the world and the region. Instead, it is the opposite. Productivity is low and public frustration is high. And the National Happiness Index reflects that reality. This government has failed the transportation sector and by extension, the people of Jamaica. We on this side have offered several recommendations, not for headlines, but because we know of a robust, efficient, and reliable transport system is essential in real economic growth. That growth is missing and the transport sector. Transport crisis is a significant reason. We have repeatedly asked, where is the National Transportation Plan? What is the long-term vision to improve the public transportation system, especially for the 1 million Jamaicans who depend on it daily? This government's ad hoc patchwork approach has not and will not work for commuters or operators. Just in case you forget, and many of you on that side will not remember, that the JUTC was created in 1998 through great sacrifice by taxpayers and the then existing franchise holders. The then PNP government, let me repeat it again, the then PNP government envisioned a first-class transit system in Kingston Metropolitan Transport Region, including Portmore and Spanish Town, with eventual expansion to Montego Bay through the Montego Bay Metro and other rural areas. That was rail planning, putting Jamaica first, not political expediency. But where are we now? Let the numbers speak for themselves, because you like talking about let the numbers speak. Passengers carried in 2016, 63 million passengers. In 2024, 18 million passengers. Daily bus run out. Daily bus run out. 450 daily. In 2024, 203 buses running out daily. But it even gets worse, Madam Speaker. Operational cost recovery in 2016 was 70%. In 2024, 12%. And it even gets worse than that. Because fare box revenue in 2016 was $4.5 billion. In 2024, a mere $1.4 billion. This year, the JUTC is expected to record a loss of $13 billion with a government of Jamaican subsidy of $11 billion. Despite operating with less than half the required fleet, shame on you. Taxpayers are spending more to operate a broken bus system. You are more concerned about headlines than dealing with the reality of an ailing JUTC. I hear say you owe some money a back road, you need to go pay the bill. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, we asked the Minister for answers during the Standing Finance Committee in March. And that's why, Madam Speaker, for me, the Standing Finance Committee, we are really making a dolly house of the Standing Finance Committee. Because when serious questions are asked, no response is forthcoming. But yet still we are required to come here to hold the ministers and the budget accountable. But in March, I asked the questions which the minister promised to respond to. But up to now, we have not gotten any response. So let me remind him, because the public still needs and demands these answers. What would cause a $1.8 billion increase in salaries at the JUTC for this fiscal year, as stated in the public bodies, from 4.32 billion to 6.12 billion, and still running out half the fleets of buses? What would cause a $414 million increase? $414 million increase in toll charges from 194 million to 608 million. I will implore you, if you don't have the answer, quiet. Madam Speaker, currently 127. No, but member. Currently, 127 of the 200 buses in operation are CNG-powered buses. Yet, only one CNG fueling station is at the Portmore depot out of all 3 depots operated by the JUTC. While CNG buses are deployed to Spanish Town and Rockfort, so these buses must drive from Rockfort and Spanish Town to refuel at Portmore. How does this make any sense? The current fueling station at Portmore, Madam Speaker, has a capacity to fuel 150 buses. And we are at near full capacity, 127. And 70 more CNG buses are scheduled to arrive in the country in July, with no other fueling capacity. Where exactly will they be refueled, Madam Speaker? This is another example. It cannot be refueled at Portmore because it only has a capacity for 150 buses. This is another example, Madam Speaker, of poor planning and administrative failure. We on this side have long championed the introduction of rural school bus services. I proposed such a program in a previous sectorial presentation. While the JUTC has begun rolling out rural buses for the school buses, rural school buses, serious questions still remain. What are the age and mileage of the used buses that are being purchased? Where will they be parked and maintained daily? How will they be fueled? What arrangements have been put in place to fuel these buses out in the rural areas? Who will operate the buses and what structure has been established? What is the cost of the subsidy? Because the JUTC bus now running to Morant Bay, when it deadheads in Morant Bay, it has to be parked at the police station. Catch at the police station. No. I expect that if we are rolling out a system with an additional 100 buses, the infrastructure ought to be put in place to facilitate these buses. The lack of infrastructure makes this program unsustainable in its current form. We are proposing the right program, Rural Initiative for Delivering Education. A partnership with private operators and subsidized transportation for 20,000 school children, island-wide, compared to the 4,000 proposed in this government's plan. This plan will focus on children who must take more than one transport to get to school, impacting those families even more. It is not only the town centers to town centers, it will also be from those faraway communities, like some of those you have, member from Western St. Mary, which most likely do not have any dedicated routes. What we need is a rail national transport plan. We need a comprehensive national transport strategy that includes a plan to urgently revitalize the JUTC, which is projected to receive an $11 billion subsidy this year, while also incurring a $14 billion loss. The integration of the over 100,000 licensed public passenger operators, including the 8,000 in the KMTR, in a proper transport plan. Development of a national school bus system with private sector integration. Construction of adequate parking infrastructure in our town centers. A modernized transport authority capable of gathering real-time data and acting as a true regulatory agency. The time has come to get it right. Within our first 100 days in office, we will implement a workable franchise system in the KMTR, not the one that is now bandied around by the minister. Roll out an organized, workable, and affordable school bus service, and begin restructuring the transport sector with Jamaica at the center of our decisions. Madam Speaker, the tragic death of 29-year-old teacher Daniel Anglin, who disappeared on May 13, 2024, after reportedly using a ride-sharing app, has cast a spotlight on the urgent need for regulation in this sector. Her remains were later found in Salt River, Clarendon. The suspect, believed to be a driver for a ride-sharing service, had a prior arrest for sexual assault in 2015. This incident underscores the critical gaps in our current system, where background checks and safety protocols are insufficient. In response, the Minister of Transport announced an immediate 12-month ban on all ride-sharing apps. The decision aimed to address national security concerns and the lack of regulatory oversight. The ban mandates that these services cease operations until they comply with local laws and regulations. Madam Speaker, while the intent to protect our citizens is commendable, A blanket ban is not the most effective action. It is imperative that we develop a comprehensive regulator framework that includes mandatory background checks for all drivers, certification and licensing requirements for ride-sharing companies, clear guidelines for data sharing between ride-sharing companies and law enforcement agencies, public awareness campaigns to educate citizens on safe usage of ride-sharing services. Madam Speaker, we must balance innovation with safety. Ride-sharing services offer convenience and economic opportunities, but pose significant risks without proper regulation. Let us work collaboratively to establish a system that ensures the safety of our citizens while embracing technological advancements in transportation. The government has dropped the ball on this one, making announcements for headlines. Madam Speaker, no conversation about transportation sector is complete without addressing the backbone of our commuter landscape, our taxi operators. Route taxi drivers and hackney carriage operators move thousands of Jamaicans daily, particularly in underserved areas where JUTC cannot reach and our rural communities. For many Jamaicans, the taxi driver is the first ride of the day and the last one home at night. Taxi drivers are not just drivers, they are community figures, small business operators, and a core part of the public transport ecosystem. But Madam Speaker, the reality is that the sector remains fragmented, unstructured, and in urgent need of integration. And yes, we acknowledge that some behaviors within the taxi sector can be unruly and contribute to public frustration. But the answer is not to vilify or exclude them. It is to create a system where accountability, opportunity, and respect go hand in hand. We need them, and they need us. For decades, taxi operators have functioned in a semi-informal space, regulated, yes, but without any real stake in the broader transport plan that has led to route overlaps, conflicts with the JUTC services, inconsistent fare structures, lack of investment in fleet upgrades. It's time to bring order, respect, and opportunity to the taxi sector, starting with a workable franchise system in the KMTR. Our proposed solutions are: one, create a tiered taxi franchise framework, establish a zonal franchise model where operators apply to serve specific corridors, prioritize routes underserved by the JUTC, not what was offered by the minister recently, offer exclusive rights to operate on designated routes within franchise agreements, giving operators security and predictability. Secondly, to digitize and register all operators. Create a centralized digital taxis registry under the Transport Authority. Allow passengers to access verified driver information and route data via app or SMS. We will launch a Know Your Driver portal, driver app, allowing customers to verify license status, view a driver's ID, and submit a feedback. This enhances accountability, safety, and data collection for policy development. Thirdly, subsidize and incentivize upgrades, offer tax breaks, fuel concessions, and low-interest loans to operators who participate in the franchise system and upgrade their vehicles to those conducive to public transport and safety. We want to lift them from the ground up. We will launch a national taxi modernization grant and loan facility in collaboration with the DBJ and private lenders. This facility will offer low-interest loans and partial grants to taxi operators who join the franchise system and commit to upgrade their vehicles. Fourthly, develop designated pickup zones and taxi hubs. Collaborate with local municipal corporations to build structured taxi stands in key commercial centers and transport hubs. This reduces congestion and brings dignity to the profession and to the traveling public. Fifthly, to professionalize the industry. Launch a national taxi operator training and certification program covering customer service, defensive driving, fair handling, and dispute resolution. Certified drivers under the franchise system will wear visible ID badges, improving public trust and safety. Because if you have a system, Madam Speaker, if you have a system that doesn't work, we will ensure that it works properly for those who are in the system. Modernize fare structures and integrated payment. Pilot smart fare system or prepaid cards that can be used across JUTC and franchise taxes. This supports seamless mobility and transparent revenue tracking. Not my fault, that's what I can't think about it. Madam Speaker, we cannot continue to treat our taxi operators as outliers. We must treat them as partners in national development. A well-managed franchise taxi system will not only ease the burden on the JUTC, but also increase public transport access, safety, and dignity. This government had 9 years to organize the sector and has failed the people of Jamaica. We are ready. Within our first 100 days in office, we will begin consultations and pilot projects to bring structure, opportunity, and respect to our taxi sector across the KMTR and eventually right across the island. Madam Speaker, while we talk about buses, roads, and franchises, we cannot ignore what happens daily on our streets: indiscipline, congestion, and reckless driving. From illegal overtaking to red light violations and dangerous pedestrians crossings. Jamaica's roads have become chaotic, and the consequences are deadly. In 2024 alone, we lost over 400 lives to road crashes, many of them preventable. What is obvious is that high fines are not a deterrent for persons to observe the law. What we need is a culture change. We need decisive action. We propose expanding the electronic ticketing and traffic camera system across all parishes, not just in urban centers. Let accountability follow wherever lawlessness occurs. Reviewing
House Leader, the members' time for speaking has expired.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the Speaker be allowed another 15 minutes to complete his presentation.
Members, question is that the member be allowed 15 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members. Madam Speaker, we propose expanding electronic ticketing and trafficking camera system across all parishes, not just urban centers. Let accountability follow wherever lawlessness occurs. Review and updating the Road Traffic Act to include modern transport realities. E-scooters, personal mobility devices, and ride-sharing logistics must now be governed by clear rules. Designating and enforcing safe pedestrian zones in every town center with proper signage, speed limits, and crossing lights. Madam Speaker, traffic law enforcement cannot be a Kingston issue. It must be a national standard. Our roads must be safe for all Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, the mining sector significantly contributes to our GDP and foreign exchange earnings. However, the concern raised by affected communities must be addressed. Dust, land degradation, lack of consultation, and environmental impact. Mining can no longer be merely about extraction. It must be a part of a sustainable development strategy. Madam Speaker, this government must commit not only to mining, but also sustainable and equitable mining practices. Regulations must be modernized to reflect the realities of our communities and the global standards we aspire to meet. Additionally, we must actively engage the local stakeholders to ensure grassroots voices shape the future of this sector. The communities that have borne the brunt of mining's negative impacts are owed not only compensation, but also empowerment and investment in their future. Madam Speaker, we must strengthen environmental regulations and enforce land reclamation. Reinvest mining revenues into impacted communities, infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Not 2 tablets and a painting of a school. Proper infrastructure. Ensure transparency in mining leases and community assessments. Develop a national minerals policy focused on value-added production, such as refining and manufacturing, instead of raw exports. Madam Speaker, I'm sorry that the minister isn't here, but there's an issue that I keep asking the minister. What of those bauxite companies that are still in possession of prime agricultural land that are underutilized? Just like Grove Place in my own constituency. Probably have about 20 cows and probably about 1,000 acres of land. Why can't those lands go back into the hands of farmers who can utilize them in productivity? And you have some communities like that in my own constituency where we have been promised for years about taking the heavy equipments off the public road and building haul roads to take the trucks. But the promises keep on coming every year, but yet still no haul roads. And then the community is at painstake for them to help to even patch the road or bush it. Why is it that government agencies keep on giving them a license when they are not holding their end of the bargain? Mining must serve the people, not the other way around, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move on to roads. Quality roads are essential for national development. Yet roads in both rural and urban Jamaica remain in poor condition. Too often we talk about infrastructure. The focus is on big highways and flashy ribbon cutting projects. But in most rural communities, residents are left navigating crumbling roads, narrow corners, and overgrown verges, right? Member from Central? The message is clear. Rural Jamaica feels forgotten. All of Jamaica feels forgotten. That is why we are calling for a rural connectivity and equity strategy to ensure every Jamaican, regardless of postal code, has reliable access to transport, school, healthcare, and commerce. We propose a national rural road upgrade program that prioritizes access roads, not just main roads. Embedding a rural infrastructure equity index into national planning to ensure fair allocation of resources. Let us stop treating rural infrastructure as charity. It is a right and a necessity for rural Jamaica. Millions are spent in select areas, while many community roads are ignored. This imbalance is unacceptable. Good roads are not a luxury. They are essential for productivity, access to services, and economic activity. Once again, I call for a national road rehabilitation and maintenance plan. What we have now is unsustainable. The government spends between $5 and $8 billion annually, but that is far from enough. The central government alone cannot carry this burden. So we have found ourselves in a vortex of unrehabilitated roads. The Spark program was introduced as a solution, but the question is it sustainable? Given the current funding and costs, can it realistically rehabilitate the 600 roads that the minister and the prime minister keep panning about? Or will it simply flicker out like so many other failed promises? Now we hear of a proposed one road authority. Let me caution this house, before we go down that road, let us have a full stakeholder consultation. We believe that we believe that the municipal corporations still have a critical role in managing Jamaica's 27,000 kilometers of roads. Because, Mr. Speaker, my apologies. Let us find real solutions for financing road maintenance, not just shifting responsibility around. You are putting the cart before the horse. Have you forgotten that you have been in government for 9 years? Yet still the country is we are still awaiting a plan. Oh, Mr. Speaker, there are concerns about the Spark program. Because as it is now, the contractor is not up to full speed with all the projects. But it is evident that the contractor cannot handle all 4 packages. Because the minister announced package 4, but yet still the 2 roads in my own constituency were on package 1. Persons in package 2 and 3 started even before roads on package 1. The member from East Kingston, his road has stalled after the ribbon cutting and groundbreaking. You have contractors subcontracting to other subcontractors, subcontractors contracting to other subcontractors. We want to know, why is it? Because the 600 roads that has been bandied about, and if I am to look at, each MP was asked to choose 10 roads. But when I look at the cost of the first 2 roads in my own constituency and the 293 million that is attributed to Northwest Manchester, I won't be getting no more than about 4 or 5 roads. So the 10 roads that have been promised, what has really happened is that they have set me up with my constituents thinking that it is 10 roads that we would have gotten. But the truth is that, Minister, we have to be honest with the people of Jamaica. Because the Spark program which you have promoted, the Spark program, as I started out, I said it is a start. But what is truly needed is a national plan on how it is that we are going to sustainably rehabilitate our road network. So we propose a national rural roads rehabilitation plan, including a 10-year national rehabilitation and maintenance plan, a national road maintenance fund, so that we can fund consistently a proper road maintenance program, a comprehensive drainage maintenance program, decentralized road maintenance budgets, a focus on climate resilient road designs. We remain committed to a Jamaica where no community will be left behind. And national priorities, not party politics, drive road development. In closing, Mr. Speaker, after almost 10 years in office, some people are promising to choose Jamaica. We have been doing that since 1938. And repeatedly and repeatedly at all material times, particularly in 1944 and 1962. It is our lifeblood. Choose Jamaica a long time. We understand the needs of Jamaica and Jamaicans. We are ready to build a thriving, productive, safe, and healthy society for all. It is by our deeds that people will know us. As we come to the end of the life of this parliament, Lord, dismiss us with thy blessing. You are so small-minded, you can't even read the scriptures. Dismiss us with thy blessing. Thanks for mercies past received. And those returning are more faithful than before. Mr. Speaker, God bless Jamaica. Land we love. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Madam House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Members.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for his excellent presentation on that side, as we had two excellent presentations on this side. Three very promising young men. And they have agreed that it's all about choosing Jamaica. So, Madam Speaker, we have been having our sectoral presentations on a Tuesday and have structured our program in Parliament, so we are here once a week. This week, we'll be attending Parliament twice. And so, Mr. Speaker, I now ask that the sectoral debate be suspended.
The request is on the floor that the sectoral debate be suspended until Wednesday, the 28th of May at 2 p.m. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Madam House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow we will have a presentation by the Honorable Desmond Mackenzie, Member of Parliament from the great constituency of West Kingston. And it also happens to be the birthday of the late, most Honorable Edward Philip George Seaga. And so we had to sit on that day to specially recognize his contribution to this country. And if I am permitted to say this, and later that evening, all the revivalists from across the country will celebrate the UNESCO inscription of the Revival Watertown experience in honor of Mr. Seaga. Thought I'd throw that in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know how many persons in here are revivalists, but I know, and I know even a great mayor from that side is a revivalist. So we're going to see all sides tomorrow night. No, revivalism. So, Mr. Speaker, I now ask for the recommittal of all the items through to presentation of bills.
The request is on the floor for the recommittal of all other items with the exception of public business. Those in favor? Those against, the ayes have it. Statement by ministers. Announcement.
Laid on the table of the House are the following. Annual report of the University Council of Jamaica for the financial year 2014-2015. Annual report of the University Council of Jamaica for the financial year 2018-2019. The National Correctional Services Policy for Jamaica. White Paper number 01 of 2025 entitled The National Correctional Services Policy for Jamaica. And finally, the Capital Development Fund Withdrawal number 1, Order 2025 and its resolution under the Bauxite Production Levy Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bills brought from the Senate. Petitions. Papers. Report from committees. Notices of motion given orally.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move, be it resolved that the Capital Development Fund Withdrawal number 1 Order 2025 under the Bauxite Production Levy Act, which was laid on the table of the House on May 27, 2025, be approved. Mr. Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which was given.
Questions and answers to questions. Motion that may be made at the commencement of public business required notice. Motion relating to the sitting of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Mr. Speaker, before the Honorable House is the Bauxite Production Levy Act Capital Development Fund Withdrawal number 1 Order 2025. As at March 31, 2025, Mr. Speaker, the Jamaica Bauxite Institute reported cash and cash equivalent of just over $87.5 million. This amount is insufficient to cover operating expenses, which are in the tune of just over $463 million projected for the financial year 2025-26. The requested support from the Capital Development Fund, which is coming through the withdrawal order, is a necessity to allow the Jamaica Bauxite Institute to continue to finance its operations. Mr. Speaker, just by way of background, to remind honorable members that the Jamaica Bauxite Institute was established by the government of Jamaica in 1975 as a regulatory planning and development agency to manage the sovereign aspects of Jamaica's participation in the bauxite alumina industry. The work essentially turns on monitoring, evaluation, and conducting research on bauxite and alumina, and both nationally and internationally. And the JBI has also expanded its operations to offer laboratory services on a commercial basis. However, revenue earned from these activities are insufficient to fully fund its operation. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, the balance in the Capital Development Fund as at March 31, 2025, stands at just over $7 billion, showing an increase from over 1.6 billion in 2021. Adequate resources are therefore available in the Capital Development Fund to facilitate the budget support for the JBI for the financial year 2025-26. After the requested sums are withdrawn, the fund will still have a balance of over $6.6 billion. It is therefore proposed that a withdrawal be made from this Capital Development Fund in accordance with the Bauxite Production Levy Act and Cabinet Decision number 5 of 2025, dated February 5, 2025, granting approval of $455.89 million in budgetary support for the Jamaica Bauxite Institute for the financial year 2025-26. I will therefore be asking in due course that the order be affirmatively supported.
Leader of Opposition Business, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is the custom that the Jamaica Bauxite Institute is funded through this method, and we therefore would have no difficulty in supporting it. But it is also the custom that when such a motion is put, there are some accompanying other provisions that we are not seeing here today. Mr. Speaker, much has been said about the problems with mining in our communities. Many of the members of parliament who represent communities that are involved in mining, they do lament the fact that not much is put back into these communities. And so the opportunity is always used there to make allocations for roads, for other measures that normally would go towards assisting infrastructural development in these communities. So while we support the JBI's allocation, the question that we would like to ask is, when will there be an allocation for the development of these communities where there are mining activities? And there was a proposal 2 years ago for the establishment of a special committee of this parliament of members of parliament who represent bauxite communities, so that even before you start to think about the allocation, because these resources are from the bauxite levy and from royalties, I believe that the members of parliament should really have a greater say in the allocation of these funds that are derived from the bauxite industry. And I'm making a strong suggestion to the government that we establish that committee, that they meet regularly, just like a standing in one of the permanent committees of the parliament, to to ensure that when these communities are, when the resources are depleted, that there are things that the community can see as resulting from the mined out activities. So, right, and not just holes in the ground. So I'm suggesting, Minister, that something soon be presented to this Parliament from the Ministry of Finance as to the remaining allocation. You mentioned that there are, what, you have $7 billion, you're taking out 400 and odd million. What is going to happen to the remaining $6 billion in the fund? Should that not be allocated now to deal with these roads that are destroyed by bauxite mining, to deal with the rehabilitation works, to deal with the allocation of lands, the work that is necessary to ensure that persons who are in these areas can get access to some of these lands that are now available. But as I said, Mr. Speaker, we don't have any disagreement with the allocation to JBI.
Mr. Speaker, I have taken note of the member's contribution. I would just say that I am neither the minister with responsibility for finance nor the minister with responsibility for mining. And I do believe that it would be the minister with responsibility for mining that would actually deal with the activities in relation to mining, and not the minister with responsibility for finance, because this specific order is for budget support, which falls under the Ministry of Finance. So while I appreciate the points made and the importance of a give back to the communities, and in particular where the extractive work has resulted in a disruption to the environment and the roads, I do not believe that the ask can be accommodated in this order, because this is a withdrawal order in accordance with the Principal Act for the budget support activity. So I believe that the concern should be raised more appropriately at another time when that specific matter can be accommodated. Mr. Speaker, I now move that the motion, notice of which I gave earlier, be approved. Well,
The question is that the standing order be suspended to enable the minister to take the motion, notice of which he gave earlier.
yes, the request was for the standing orders to be suspended to enable the motion to be taken, and
Those
it
in
has
favor?
been taken. Yes.
Those against, ayes have it. The question is that the motion, the notice of which the minister gave earlier, be approved. Those in favor? Those against, ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, it is not contemplated, it's not contemplated for us to do any further business today. So I therefore ask that the House adjourns to May 28th, 2 p.m. sharp, and to indicate that the speaker tomorrow will be the Honorable Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, and the Member of Parliament for Western Kingston. So I ask that we adjourn at this time. The speaker that was scheduled for yesterday, Mrs. Anita Garvey, will now speak next week. She was on the schedule for tomorrow. Am I correct? But she has been rescheduled to next week. right? When Mr. Chuck, I'm sorry, you have been rescheduled to June 10. Okay, so next week, Tuesday, we will have the Honorable Delroy Chuck, Honorable Robert Nestor Morgan, and Dr. Angela Brown-Burke. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The motion is on the floor for the adjournment of the sitting. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. At this moment, this meeting now, this parliament now stands adjourned.